Hello, good morning, and welcome to Morning Brew on Hughes the World. I'm Graham Hughes. How you all doing this morning? Please let me know in the chat if you want to join our friends in the chat. We've got Martin Harrow in there. We've got Viper Scott. We have got James and Martin. We've got Elle is in there as well. Drainy is in there. Witchy Wisdom. Hello, Paula Thomas. Simon Smith. Hello, hello, hello. If you'd like to join our friendly friends in the friendly chat, just hit that friendly subscribe button, wait for one friendly minute, and you'll be able to participate. But don't be a troll. We will crush you like a bug, motherfucker. Okay, so welcome to the show. Today we're going to be talking about what's going on in the news, but there's one particular news story that kind of caught my attention, and it was an opinion piece in The Guardian this morning, in which the Nazreen Malik, the author of the piece, was talking about the death of woke 1.0, and this is something that was Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez talked about this, saying, "Oh, it's the end of it's the end of woke 1.0," as in like there's another wave coming. But I think we need to be a little bit realistic here. Like we lost. Thanos clicked his fingers, and there was no going back in time and fixing things. The bastards won. The bastards won. They got their Brexit. They got their Trump twice becoming president. They got their insurrection against the US Parliament building. They got Elon Musk into to gut US aid. They got people deported and put into El Salvadorian prisons. They got to put children in cages. They got to make shit golden shite all over the fucking White House and put up shite monuments in shite tacky trailer trash monuments all over Washington DC, like an old sort of rusting on the front yard. So yeah, I think this is quite an interesting story to look at this morning. Like doing a bit of an autopsy and going, okay, what went wrong? How did we fuck this up? But yeah, this is the news from the US that woke 1.0 is over, and what they mean by this is this label used for the period in the 2010s, the early 2020s. When movements around racial equality, feminism, sexual harassment, representation broke into mainstream culture. So we're talking about Black Lives Matter, Me Too, women's marches, debate over policing, institutional racism, sexism, transphobia, university curricula, imperial history, and representation. And the argument that Nazreen Malik makes in this article in The Guardian is that while the underlying causes were serious, some of the surrounding cultural behaviour became performative and ultimately counterproductive. Okay, and I don't want to upset anyone here and just go, "Oh, what we did wasn't worth it," or we should have done it differently. But I think there are lessons to be learned. Black communities raising concerns about discriminatory policing. That wasn't crazy. Women demanding protection from sexual harassment in work or assaults on transport. Or anywhere. Attempts to address structural racism and sexism. That wasn't crazy. Broadening university curricula beyond traditionally overwhelmingly white European canons, reassessing how Britain, America, and other countries commemorate empire and colonialism, and trying to make institutions such as media, academia, and government more representative. No, that's crazy. No, that's crazy. That's all good, progressive stuff. But Malik accepts several criticisms, and I want to discuss this with you. So, put in the chat how you feel about this. But this idea that performative activism substituted symbolism for meaningful change. Social media gestures such as black squares became proxies for political actions. Other people actually taking to the street or writing to their representative or actually standing for office. They would say, oh, well, I've made me Instagram avatar, I've made it a black square, I've done all I need to do. Corporations adopted the language and imagery of social justice without necessarily changing the underlying economic structures. Think about how many corporations jumped on to Pride. Well, this Pride event brought to you by BP, which at the same time was paying for transphobic organisations to be created. There were 3 transphobic organisations in the UK in 2016. There are now over 50. Someone's paying for that. Diversity became excessively focused on people who occupied elite positions rather than improving conditions for ordinary people, which is something that I really railed against, and I still do. This obsession with looking at the handful of minorities in elite positions and going, they represent everyone in more than one way, right? So first of all, you've got the tragedy of Jason Arday representing all black academics, right? And a man who was hounded to death by the media, by the fuckers on social media who wouldn't leave him alone, even though he quit his job. Like that should have been it. That should have been the end. No, they kept going. But also, you've got people like Suella Braverman and Zia Youssef and obviously the former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, Priti Patel, and others, now Kemi Badnoch, and people get to point at these privately educated people, they're all privately educated, and except for Priti Patel, and say, look, this is representative of all black people, this is representative of all Asian people, and therefore there's no more racism anymore. We've cured racism. When the reality is that those few people from different ethnic backgrounds who have managed to reach the top have only managed to do that through going through institutions that they were born into, pretty much, i.e. the rich. There's bubbles within bubbles, but these places were not attainable for ordinary people, whether whatever color they or religion or ethnic background they hold. The online activists often became obsessed with policing language, which made it difficult for people on the left to have a discussion about anything because you were always concerned about saying the wrong thing. I'm not entirely across this argument because I feel like I've been doing this for 5 years. I don't feel like I've been doing it for 5. I've been doing this for 5 fucking years. Pretty much shows every single day for 5 fucking years. Thousands of live shows, thousands of live hours. And I don't think that so far I've said anything that's really got me into hot water. And even I hope that I don't. I hope that I don't actually, accidentally say something that's really, really offensive. But at the same time, we get drunk on our Friday night socials and talk absolute shite. So I just don't think that, I don't know, because I feel like there are people in other parts of the internet, and obviously this is quite a little special corner of the internet that's inhabited by, about 100 people who are watching this, all of whom, are willing to put up with a bit of my fucking knobheadedry. Is that even a thing? No, prepared to put up with my bullshit from time to time. And we're friends, we get along, and we're not going to agree on everything, obviously. But the policing, the self-policing, and the self-appointment of certain people who put themselves forward as speaking on a particular issue, and if you don't speak about that issue enough, then you're cursed. Or if you take an alternative position on that left wing as fuck on everything, and then there's one thing you're like, I think we should be given the longer sentences for people who walk really slowly in front of you when there's no way of getting past them. People jump on it. Oh my God, you bastard! You're being ableist. And you're like, well, it's a bit of a joke, but yeah. And I can understand that, and I think this is one of the places where we can do better with this. And rather than acting as gatekeepers and policing languages, Language. The worst people for this, in my experience, and I know that some people watching this are going to vehemently disagree with me on this, but in my lived experience, the worst people for gatekeeping and saying, oh, you're not saying the right words in the right order and not, you're not prioritizing the thing that I want you to prioritize. Bloody Corbynites. They were fucking crazy. And over in the States, the what's his name? The people who followed Bernie Sanders, off a cliff. Like he was fine, and he made a good run to get the primary, to run for president for the Democrat Party. Fine, as an independent, by the way, he was an independent up to that point. But that doesn't matter. Like he lost, right? And then he should have. Well, he did put his weight behind Hillary Clinton, but a lot of his fans like never Hillary. We'd rather have Trump. Okay, we got Trump. See how that worked out for the world. So yeah, I think there are certain positions, and we see this now with my lot in the anti-Brexit crusades. I mean, the guy who stood for the fucking rejoin party, what was the point of that in Clacton? I mean, hats off to him. He came third, but he only got like 400 votes or something. And then they can look at this. The bastards can look at that and say, look, rejoin only got didn't get his deposit back. No one wants to rejoin. Fuck off. And at the time, I just thought, why don't you just get behind Camp Binface? Just get behind the comedy candidate and say, yeah, he's give Farage a bloody nose that way. Because here's the thing. You get rid of Farage out of politics, you win Brexit. You win against Brexit. If you got to get rid of him. But then that's me putting my priorities in places. I don't think that we should be rejoining the EU tomorrow. I really don't. With Nigel Farage and his gobshite lot saying they're going to take on the EU and they're going to take away rights from EU citizens, and take benefits away from EU citizens who have been, that was part of the withdrawal agreement that we negotiated with the EU, and they're going to turn their back on that, and there's going to be court cases and all this shit going on. No, I don't think we should rejoin the EU right now. I think when more people come on board with the idea of rejoining the EU, and it has to be over fucking whelming. I think when we've got press reform, so that the press isn't telling everyone, all this bullshit every day about the EU or trans people or disabled people or whoever they're going after from one day to the next. I think that's got to be put in place first. I think we're going to have a fairer voting system first. But having said that, I don't think we need to have PR tomorrow. Well, I mean, it'd be nice. But, and I keep saying this, when you go door knocking with your local MP or your local councillors or your local Metro Mayor, when you go door knocking, nobody, I have not had a single person in the years I've been door knocking say, do you know what we need to do? We need to reform the voting system. It's just not top of people's priorities. I think it's something that we should do, but there's other shit to be getting on with. We've got a cost of living crisis. We've got a world in which 40-year-old people cannot get on the housing ladder because the amount that they have to save up will take them 17 years to save up enough to just get the fucking deposit to pay for our fucking deposit on a house. George only, thank you very much. Thesis about elitism and restoration of feudalism, 100%. Yeah. I didn't think it would be possible to have more hatred for Julia Hartless-Brewer than I read in remarks after the death of Jason Arday, says Colin Baker. Yeah. Absolutely disgusting woman. Absolutely fucking disgusting. I brought up some of her comments last night when we were doing Stateside with Scott, and she is just horrific. She's absolutely horrific. A woman born without just any kind of soul, and do you know what? There's a massive, massive overlap. And note this: transphobes, and people celebrating the death of Jason Arday. The people who went after him and hounded him to death, transphobes. The ones on the left who did it, transphobes. Every single one. I think that as far as I've seen, right? Every single one I've seen so far, every single person I've seen who went after Jason Arday to his death. Unfucking-lievable. Jacinda grew up near me in Waikato. We went to the same type of schools. That's cool. I liked Jacinda. Also, a recent survey found the majority of the public in England and Wales wrongly think the majority of murders are committed by those from an ethnic minority. Yeah. I've read several. Yeah, and also, I mean, people think there's more murders than there actually are. There's about 600 murders a year in England and Wales. 600 murders. You're more likely to be fucking struck by lightning. Like, it's very, very, very unlikely for you to be murdered. And it's even more unlikely for you to be murdered by someone that you don't know. Like a stranger just turning up and just killing you for some reason. And the people who suffer the most, really, when it comes to murder, are women in domestic abuse situations. 2 women every week murdered by their partners. But people think that there's a black man around this corner with a knife who's got to stab you for being white. It's nonsense. It's absolute fucking nonsense. It's not true, but people believe it. Like I said, when I was traveling around the world, like people said, you're gonna die. You're gonna die. You can't do it. Even the travel editor of the Guardian seemed fucking convinced that would be it. You know, I go to Sierra Leone, there'll be a kid with a gun, and that'll be the end of me. And I was like, I think it'll be all right. We get this really skewed perspective of the world. We think it's more dangerous than it actually is because the only news we get around the world is bad news. But when you hear about a case, a horrific case like the disappearance of Madeleine McCann or the murder of Jamie Bulger, it's all over the news for years and years and years. But the reason why it's all over the news for years and years and years is because it's so fucking unusual, thank God. It's very, very unusual for these horrible things to happen. And yeah, we need to make sure that it will never happen again. In the case of Dunblane, we did very well at making sure that thing never happened again. It might do, but it'd be very, very difficult for someone to carry something like that out. A lot easier if you're in America. A lot easier. Yes, racism has a lot to do with it, but also the fact that these people were working class and gained entry into elite circles. That is very true. You know, people talking about, people should get into Cambridge on their own merits. People like Toby Young, whose dad got him into Oxford by making a fucking phone call, even though he didn't get the grades. If he had been black and his dad had made a phone call and said, yeah, can we get my little Tarquin into the posh university, please? And then the people, oh, yeah, so you have a little Tarquin, but we have to let him in, you know, because he's black. And we have to get the diversity quota. No, they don't. They don't. But yeah, the Oxford and Cambridge have been trying quite hard to stop, you know, not everyone from going to the university coming from private schools, which is, for a long time, that was the case. You know, if you're from a state school, you were in the vanishing minority in Oxbridge for many, many years. Still here in Durham, we're at 38% privately educated in Durham University. 38%. You go into Durham city centre here. Town centre, village centre, and you know you hear it. You hear the braying sound of the elite of the landed gentry. You know that noise they make. You know, them and donkeys. I don't know. I'm pretty sure the demographic that poses the greatest danger to me are members of parliament. Sorry, Graham, we was having a convo with posters having no regrets for voting for Jacinda. Okay, I'm not. Okay, I wasn't talking about Jacinda. Okay. Am I having? Is someone having a fight on my behalf? It's fine. No, that's not what I'm talking about today. Fat Spice says you only have to see how the media vilify the success of black people, black footballers, for example, or actors who get awful coverage. Raheem Sterling's all over his tattoo. Rashford in his campaign. Yeah. That's why I really get my back up, and I did this during the World Cup, didn't I? I really get my back up when people say that footballers aren't paid enough. That's my hill. That's my hill. I'm like, no, they get. Footballers get paid too much. When people say footballers get paid too much, I'm just like, oh, fuck off. They should get paid more. Absolutely, but who do you think should get more money per week? The guy who owns the rich kid whose daddy got him a plum job in a water company polluting our rivers, or a footballer who entertains millions of people with his actual fucking skills each week, or hair skills. You know, we get women's football up there. But yeah, and that 522 number is all killings, murder, manslaughter, death by dangerous driving, infanticide, says Chris C. Diversity quota is a complete lie. Affirmative action is illegal in England. You can advertise diversity, but not positively discriminate to enforce it. Yeah. Trainee, you're right. It's a myth. It's like DEI. It's not even a thing in the UK. We call it something else. But we have what we call reasonable adjustments in the UK for disabled people, for people who are coming from underprivileged backgrounds, and that's fair enough. Graham, have you had any voting regrets? No. Not so far. Hmm. I didn't vote for Corbyn. I would have regretted that if I had. I never voted for Boris Johnson to be London mayor, unlike James O'Brien. I'll never let him forget that, stupid bastard. But yeah. Why are there only two options? Why are there only two options? I don't know, blah, blah, CW. Give me a bit more information. Two options for what? Getting paid too much or getting paid too less? Graham doesn't have anything to regret. Least worst option, still the best. Even my MP, Luke Akehurst, who's trying to gel me, is the lesser evil. Yeah, I mean, my MP is great. My MP, Mary Foy, she's brilliant. She's really good. You know, and yeah, no, I think my it's not like a voting regret, but I wish I had been in a position to do more to stop people voting for Brexit. You know, I tried to do what I could in my life, but I wasn't in the country. I wasn't even living in the country at the time. In the lead up to the vote, I came home to vote in the referendum because it was so important. But I yeah, I wish I had the resources after getting back off me, travels around the world to get people on side and explain to people why we need to stay in the EU in a way that was positive instead of like, no, we're all going to die if we leave, and people go, oh, I didn't die. Must have all been bullshit. Must have all been Project Fear because I didn't die. And I think that's a huge mistake that we made. Everything in Newcastle is black and white. Magpie, that's very true. Stripy magpies. Look how the press hounded Princess Diana, Millie Dowler's family, etc. They're a rabid dog that either needs to be tamed or put down for the sake of humanity. Yep, I agree. Footballers getting paid too much. Oh, yeah. I mean, I just think it's something that people come out with because of, I don't know, jealousy or something. I don't know. But generally speaking, footballers come from working class backgrounds, and it's one of the few ways that working class kids can actually do really well in life. Most doors are closed to them. You used to be able to go into acting, working class actors like Sean Connery or Michael Caine or Pete Postlethwaite. Don't get them anymore. Every single actor you see on TV now and every single actor you see in films, pretty much, apart from Gary Oldman, went to private school. Nearly all of them. Like, literally, everyone who's won an Oscar, every British person who's won an Oscar, apart from Gary Oldman, this century went to private school. It gets to that point where you're like, so that's not the job for me. Mary Foy is utterly fucking useless. She ignored me for an entire year before I got moved to Luke's district against my will, says Hilgara. Well, Mary's been good for me, so I wrote to her about them not showing any subtitled films at the Gala Cinema, and she made it so that it started showing fucking subtitle films. When we had refugees staying with us a few years ago, we had problems with the paperwork. She brought it up in Parliament. She brought it up to Priti Patel. So I'm sorry that you haven't had a good experience, but that I guess that's it, isn't it? Everyone's experience of the same thing varies. You're going to see the same movie, and one of us comes out going, "That was the best thing ever," and the other is, "I was shite. I fell asleep." And yeah, I'm sorry, Hilgara, that you've had a bad experience. Do you want me to get in touch with her? Do you want me to get do me a favor, Hilgara? I didn't know that you were being ignored. Can you get in touch with me through GrahamDavidHughes.com? Send me a message. Let me know what's going on. I'll get the message over to Mary. All right. Let me know what you need. Shinty players do it for the love of the game. Clash of the Ash, run rig, says James. Do you know what? I read some messages on here, and I'm like, I'm sorry you've lost me. Graham, what was the first beach you went to? I don't know. I don't know what. I don't know, Craig. Formby Beach, I guess. Crosby Beach, because that's before. Okay, Crosby Beach, north of Liverpool. Okay, so yeah, back to woke, back to the death of woke. Getting really madly sidelined here. Why are we talking about beaches? Yeah. I talked about corporations sort of jumping onto the language and imagery of social justice without doing anything, and at the time they were paying, behind the scenes, paying for the right to rise, and and yeah, some people suffered disproportionate professional reputational consequences for relatively minor mistakes, and this is a real problem. And we have discussed this before on this channel about gatekeeping on the left, about how the left likes to eat itself, like the left falls out with itself more. The left has more of a problem with other people on the left who aren't prioritizing the thing that you want prioritizing than they do with people on the right who literally want to destroy our rights completely and take them away and put us all into a fucking containment camp to be reprogrammed into the right wing fucking mentality or something. I don't know. But yeah, social media rewarded denunciation, absolutism, and public pile-ons. And you saw this, if one of the people who you followed on social media turned out that they'd said something in 2013 on Twitter that was a bit wrong, and it's like, how dare you? And it was like, I was drunk, and I worded it clumsily or whatever, and then it was like, no, you must shave your head and go live in a cave wearing rags full of fleas. And it's like, why? Put on your hair shirt, motherfucker. It's like, okay. And this is where I think the left and the right really do diverge. Because the right are prepared to forgive the people on the right anything. Where we're prepared to forgive nothing. People who wanted to stand up against Hillary Clinton. Oh, but she said this back in that... the people who went after Keir Starmer because he wasn't, not because of trans rights, but because of he wasn't Jeremy Corbyn, who wasn't given a chance. Yes, he fucking was. He was. Just let it go. And now you got people who are like mad Korma fans. Korma. I'm a mad fan of Korma. I love a curry. Mad Keir Starmer fans who were like outraged at this bloodless coup of letting Andy Burnham become leader without an election. Didn't need an election. He would have won anyway. He won in fucking Makerfield with 55% of the vote. Fuck off. That's all we need for someone to stand up against refuck and say these are nasty fuckers, aren't they? Something like Keir Starmer just wasn't capable of doing. And, I voted for Keir Starmer. I got no regrets voting for Keir Starmer to be leader. I got no regrets about voting for Labour to become the government over the fucking Tories. Less of the two evils. Yes, you're right. It is. But because there is a lesser of two evils as an option, I'll fucking take it. Because the evil is mind-blowing. Don't forget, the Tories want to take us out of the European Court of Convention on Human Rights now. They want to scrap net zero. The Tories are mounting the same scorched earth policy as refuck, who are gonna, they're gonna reform PIP. They want to take it away. They want to take it away from everyone. They want to get rid of it. So people who don't deserve it are taking this money. It's like, no. What, you mean pensioners who are already millionaires? SG, sorry, watching and catch up, so comments won't match what's live, but woke, don't worry, we went on a mad tangent, so don't worry about it, SG, was made performative by corporations. Corporations are at the root of a lot of society's evils. Yeah, woke was made performative by corporations, yeah. And this is something that I feel like we have to learn from and not let them do this, not let corporations get away with co-opting and virtue signaling. We don't virtue signal. We really believe this stuff. We really believe that women deserve just as much rights and dignities as men, and trans women deserve just as many rights and dignities as women. We believe that as cisgender women, because trans women are women. We believe that ethnic minorities should be treated with dignity and respect, and we believe that the country should be doing something about fucking climate change, which is burning our fields at the moment, causing thousands of people to die of heat-related fucking illnesses. But social media has a lot to answer for. It rewarded absolutism. It rewarded denunciation. Public pylons. How many people in especially on the left in the Remain movement? I mean, I think of like Madeleine Kay, who was treated so badly. She put up a picture of herself on Instagram, and it was a fucking stupid picture to put up. And she realized straight away, because she didn't know what she was, where she was, and the pylon was so intense, was ridiculous, right? And I had the back line on this because I was, one of the people fighting to remain in the EU, and it was horrible to do this to a young woman in her early 20s at the time, just absolute fucking pylon, saying, "Oh, she should know better, blah blah blah, stupid little girl," and just being so horrifically misogynist and against one of our sort of most high-profile campaigners. I was just like, and this is in 2019. This is in the run-up to that fucking diabolical general election in the middle of fucking winter that the Tories won. And we see this time and time again. I'm sure you've got examples of people who you followed online who have been hounded offline by people just being fucking horrible to them. Our friends, especially our female friends like Supertansky and Patsy and Marina and Gemma, they get the most horrific abuse. Death threats, rape threats that men don't get. I don't get anything like that. But they do. And what do the social media platforms do? Fuck all. And the thing is, and they'll tell you this, right? Well, some of them might. They'll say that some of the most venomous stuff came from the left. The most evil, disgusting, you don't speak for me, how fucking dare you, ideas above your station, all this. This venom, we need to take the venom out. And yeah, I get it. We've all got our own priorities. We've all got our own thing that we'd like to see done first. And a government is never going to deliver everything you want in the same way that an adaptation of a book into a movie is not going to give you the vision you had when you read the book because someone else made the fucking movie. You know what? If the movie annoyed you that much by not giving you the exact image you had in your head, go and write, direct, produce your own fucking movie. Go on. And then someone else will come along and say, that wasn't the thing I had in my head. Yeah, obviously. And so I do think that we need to calm down a bit on this. And I know that you're going to say in the chat, this is easy for you to say, white boy. And I get that. I do get that. But this is also why my take on this is, if you are feeling like there is something that the government is not doing or missing or making life worse. I mean, obviously, a lot of people watching this will know exactly what I'm talking about when I mention that. Get onto your MP, get onto your local party, local Labour Party, get onto them, hassle them relentlessly. Not to the point of criminality, but make your voice heard to them. Don't allow them to ignore you. Because Labour can be directed in the right direction. The Tories can't. If you want to write to your Tory fucking MP most of the time, you may as well just throw that letter in the bin. They will. Or refuck, if you got a refuck MP. What, you're going to write to them and say we should do something about climate change? You're going to write to them and say we should do something to help trans rights? Good luck with that. But with Labour, there is a possibility. With the Lib Dems, there's a possibility. With the Greens, there's definitely a possibility of them going in the right direction. But then, the way people react against Zach Polanski, people on the left absolutely fucking hate him. And I don't really get it. I'm like, okay, he's a politician and he's made some mistakes, of course, we all have. But it's like we scream at these people who why aren't you perfect? Why don't you agree with me on absolutely everything? And we can pretend that we're being reasonable and say, well, that this is a really important thing. Yeah, I get it. I get it. But if we take a step back, it's like there's nothing that a lot of these people can do, especially if they're not in the position of power. But even if they are in a position of power, there's nothing they can do tomorrow. And if they did do the thing that we want them to do tomorrow, would it be the right thing to do tomorrow? I mean, get rid of the guidance. Yeah, absolutely. Fucking get rid of that tomorrow. Fine. But UBI, a fairer voting system, getting back into the EU, I don't think we should do them tomorrow. I just don't. I think we should be going full balls to the metal on fucking climate change, on net zero. Yeah, absolutely. Go nuts for that. I will borrow fuckloads. I borrow £1 trillion fucking pounds. I don't give a fuck. Put the infrastructure in. Gotta be done. It's got to be done. Yeah, future generations will be paying. Yeah, okay, whatever. I don't care. Otherwise, future generations are not going to have a fucking country to live in. Yeah, Labour can be redirected, says Captain. Yeah, but they can. What were you talking about? We saw it with PIP last year. The government wanted to bring in PIP reform, and the backbenchers said no, fuck off. The government said, "Oh, we're going to wait on until the situation's right, but we are going to get rid of the 2-child benefit cap." And everyone's like, "Oh, but you got to get rid of it immediately." And like, listen, we are going to get rid of it, but just not immediately because we need to know how we're going to pay for it all. And then they got rid of it, and everyone went, "Oh yeah, not doing enough about Palestine." They recognise Palestine as a country. Yeah, but it's not enough. It's never going to be enough. There's people out there who want our government to go and send a ninja crew in to kill Netanyahu and that Ben-Gvir creep. And yeah, I mean, it's not going to happen. We go, but what we'll do is we'll stop selling them all these weapons. There's a lot of weapons we stopped selling them, for a start. Under David Lammy, he went through a list and ticked them all off. But like the stuff that we are continuing to be part of, the process of making, some of this stuff is made in multiple countries, right? And I'll tell you what's going to happen if we pull out of those contracts overnight. We're talking billion-dollar contracts here, right? If we pull out of those contracts, who's going to pick up the tab when it goes to court and we have to pay loads of money for breaking the contract which our government or the defence companies, which are backed by the government, signed? Taxpayers. That's going to come out of, child bereavement services in Liverpool. That's going to come out of making sure your nan stays warm in winter. That's going to come out of your education budget. That's going to come out of fixing the potholes or anything else. It's a process. And I think that a lot of us on the left need to just fucking, there is a party in Parliament at the moment. They might not be in for much longer, but there is one that can be swayed. Over 100 MPs from that party, more than a quarter of that party, signed an early day motion to get rid of this fucking stupid trans guidance. The transphobic guidance that was created by the transphobes of the Inequalities and Human Wrongs Commission. So yeah, you're going to get a better fucking answer, or you're going to get more of a sway. Might not be the answer that you want necessarily straight away, but keep at it. You're going to have more of a chance of getting these people who are in Parliament at the moment in Labour on side for what you want than you are with the Tories. Not a single Tory signed that early day motion. Greens did. I think some SNP members did. The Lib Dems did. Not a single Tory. Not a single Tory. Not a single refucker. Of course they didn't. I mean, this is part of their culture war bullshit. And the culture wars work so well. And we fall into this fucking trap every time because we get obsessed with their particular culture wars that they're foisting, that these fuckers are fucking, are foisting on us, Okay, the number of job vacancies has dropped to its lowest level in the last several years, yet Pat McFadden has just stated he wants to get more people into work. How there isn't the jobs, dipshit. Well, if we hadn't left the EU, it might help. With being able to have jobs, because we could go anywhere in Europe and do a job and send money back to the UK. We take money from another country and send it back to the UK, but we can't do that anymore. On my last contact, the corporation has all its usual ethical policies. They still had the public school boys in charge. Since I left, I found out they represented a crypto donor. Oh God, I don't know who you're talking about. Is that the BBC? Dad says, I think that there's one thing the reform experience has done is to help clarify my politics. I don't even think it do left or versus right anymore. There are 3 poles, not a binary axis. Yeah, maybe. I will not support genocide, full stop, tax the fucking rich. Yeah, so Jamie, yeah, I mean, look, that's a really good example of something that, is like a, what's the word? A truism? Like, what do you want me to do with that statement? I will not support genocide. Who supports genocide? Like, who's saying, yeah, genocide, that's great, and tax the fucking rich? Yeah, I'd love to. Have you seen how hard it is to tax the rich? So what are the 2 things that that Labour have done to try and tax the rich by stealth? They put VAT on private schools. Never heard the end of that. The privately educated people who write for the privately educated editors of the privately educated newspapers. The newspaper be privately educated? No, I don't know. Still freaking out about that one. And what was the other one? Get rid of the tax dodge that was to buy land, because land was exempt from inheritance tax. So privately educated gobshites like James Dyson and Jeremy Clarkson jumping on the bandwagon there and buying up land so that they wouldn't have to, the kids wouldn't have to pay any inheritance tax when those motherfuckers cark it. They closed that loophole. What happened? Fucking 1,000 tractors descend on London. You can't get the farmers together to fight against Brexit, which was going to ruin their chances of being able to export a lot of goods or stop cheap imports coming in from Argentina and Australia and stuff like that to undercut them because they've got lower standards over there. They didn't protest against that. They didn't go turn up to London in their tractors to protest that. Are they turning up in their tractors to protest the fact that climate change is happening and the government's not doing enough about it, and that we've got a reform, lot and the Tory lot saying that there's no climate change and that we don't have to worry about going to net zero? I mean, we just need to burn. We just need to drill, baby. While the farmers' crops are parched, while the crop yields are down by a third. Where are the farmers now? You can get them out when you tax the rich. Can't get them out when they, when there's a reason, an existential reason. But yeah, I mean, this is the thing. It's like that argument there from, and it's not even an argument, but that statement, I'm not going to support a genocide. That's basically saying on my channel that I support, tacitly saying that I support a fucking genocide. To which I say, fuck off. No, I don't. Never will. Never have done. Why would I fucking support a genocide? But this is the attitude. This is someone on the left, probably well-meaning, but they're now accusing me, who I see is also on the left. I don't know. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm re-fucking disguised. Take my mask off. I'm actually Benjamin Netanyahu. I'm not. But this is the difficulty. And we're talking about this. Why did woke fail? Well, because of this. Because I'm talking about practicalities and the difficulties. And that this isn't just making excuses for the sake of making excuses. This is the reality. This is what would happen to you if you were in charge, or me if I was in charge. We'll be faced with these decisions every day of what to prioritize and what to look at, and it's it's a poison fucking chalice because you can never get it exactly right. You're gonna piss some people off, but my issue isn't particularly that we're pissed off in general. I think we should be pissed off by the way the world is, but for some reason we're more pissed off with each other. With us watching this now, with you versus me, whatever, we're more pissed off with each other for not prioritizing that particular thing or not saying that thing in the right way or not going. I get this all the time. People say, I don't talk about Israel. I do fucking talk about Israel. I just don't talk about nothing but Israel. I'll mention it now and again when it deserves to be fucking mentioned, what the horrors that they are perpetrating in Gaza. I'll mention what's happening in Iran. I'll mention what's happening in Sudan or in Eritrea or in Somalia. I'm not going to not mention it. I'm not going to not talk about it. But there's other things to talk about as well. It's like, and this is the difficulty. Everyone has their own priorities. Everyone has their own way of doing it. Everyone has the thing that they think would work. Whether it would work, I don't know. But politicians are no different from the rest of us. They're just people. And they make mistakes. They fuck up. They think one thing. They think that doing this thing will result in this, and it doesn't. Result in something else. The law of, unintended consequences. Yeah, that affects everyone. My point is that if we do have all this anger inside us, we do have all this righteous indignation inside us, can we fire it towards the right? Can we fire it towards the refuckers and the Tories and the restorers and the fucking reclaimers and the wankers out there? Posh, privileged twats like Layla Cunningham going on the TV going, we're the party of the working people. Can we direct our hatred towards her? Not like physical hatred, but could you just the pylons go against people who are horrible, who are actually going out there and trying to take away our rights and instead of the people who are ostensibly on our side? And the right have been so good at dividing the left. This is why they came up with the whole fucking trans war. The war on trans people was invented by people on the right to divide people on the left. And it fucking worked. You got people writing for The Guardian who are transphobes. How does that fucking work? You got people. You got the woman who's at the top of fucking Stonewall. Who she's a fucking transphobe. She's a fucking TERF. She respects fucking J.K. Rowling. Fuck that shit. How did she get to become head of Stonewall? It's like, it's like putting the fucking David Duke from the fucking KKK in charge of the NAACP. What is it called? The National Advancement, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People in NACAP or whatever it's called in America. It's like, put him in charge. Why would you do that? Why would you put an own racist in charge of a group that fights for the end of racism? Why would you put a woman who's a fucking transphobe in charge of a group that's supposed to... But this is what the right are really, really good at. They're really, really, really good at. But yeah, I've got scars from Labour MPs having dragged me from my home for saying they deny genocide. Tories never did that to me, not going to lie. I've got scars from Labour MPs having me dragged from my home for saying they deny. You were dragged from... Hilgara, can you get in touch with me? Can you get in touch with me? Because if this happened, then we need to call the authorities. I've got scars from my Labour MPs having me dragged from my home for saying they deny genocide. Tories never did that to me. Mary Foy's pretty fucking left wing for Labour. She's one of the hard Labour, hard left in Labour. Whenever there was a motion or something against what's going on in Israel, she was signing it. Ilgara, can you get in touch with me? Please, just get me out, because I need to know more about this. A Labour MP is having you dragged from your home for saying they deny genocide. That's horrific. That's you dragged from your home. Listen, get in touch with me, because we'll make a thing about this, because this is, if Mary's got any connection to this, then because she's been MP, hasn't she, since 2019? So, wow. And you live in Durham, right? You. I've said this for more than 6 months, bro. I don't understand, Hilgara. You've got to give me more backstory, which you're not going to be able to do in the chat here. With all respect, please get in touch. Write to me personally. But Mary Foy dragging you out your home and giving you scars. Like, she's tiny. She's like 4 foot nothing. Woke wasn't an organised plan. It was amorphous right-wing shibboleth to normalise prejudice and bigotry. What was being fought for was equity. Yeah, I mean, you're right. And woke was used as a catch-all for anything progressive, for anything nice, for anything caring about other people. But we do have a problem on the right. The right are gonna be twats, whatever we do about it. But we're gonna not fall into their traps. Activism sometimes became more about demonstrating that you were a good person rather than persuading anyone else to be a good person. And different causes, organizations, individuals are increasingly treated as though they belonged to this one, as Ernie's saying there, this one coherent ideological movement called wokeness. But there really wasn't one coherent ideological movement. And the Malik, in this article that she's written, argued that the progressive energy became concentrated in culture rather than government. And this is going back to what I was saying about, like, what are the mechanisms? What are the levers that need to be pulled? So I give the example about rejoining. Okay, I really want us to join rejoin the European Union. If I could wave a magic wand and I was still a member of the EU, I would wave that magic wand, right? But as for rejoining it, I'd wave the magic wand so we never left in the first place. But rejoining it, no, I wouldn't do it. Even if I had a magic wand and we could rejoin tomorrow or today, later today, this afternoon, ding, we're rejoining. Click me fingers, we're rejoined. I wouldn't do it. And the reason why is because Nigel Farage would use it as a way to get us out of the EU again. Straight away. And he will use that as a way to line his path into number 10 Downing Street. And if that fascist motherfucker gets in charge, it's game over. It's game over. I'm leaving this country if he gets in charge. And I'm very, very, very privileged, I know, but I can. But there are millions of people who cannot leave this country if Farage gets in, and they're going to have to live through it. Reading me on the Plantagenets, and discovered a band of northern landowning barons called the Cottrells. Looks like they're gorgeous Georgia's ancestors. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Hilgara said, I've said this on Discord, mate. Okay, Hilgara, I'm not very good at Discord. Please, can you just send me a message? It's grahamdavidhughes.com, and just copy and paste if you can from what you put on Discord. If you would. I mean, you don't have to, not obliged to do anything. It's just what you've said is really serious and horrific, and I'm really sorry you've gone through this. And if you give me some background on that, and maybe we could do something about it. I do have connections with the Labour Party in Durham here. So yeah, I can bring this up for you on your behalf. But no, that sounds absolutely fucking horrific. I'm really sorry. I just don't get the connection between, an MP dragging you out of your house. It's horrible. DW, as I am, as I don't want to make you lose your flow. Sorry, it's just a bit. It's kind of fucking hell. If Farage got in, they would all basically become slaves to money power rather than state power. Another scary thought. It does. I mean, that's ish. One of the things that Malik talks about in her piece is that the activist left often had considerable cultural visibility, but relative little executive political power. And this is what I'll always say about, let's go over. There's a part of me that just want to go over this again for the nth fucking time. But how many fucking times, right, do we still see people who are still in the cult of the previous leader of Labour, the previous but one leader of Labour, right? Who, the thing is, he got lots of people to join Labour. I don't give a fuck. He lost 2 general elections. No executive power whatsoever. Fucking ever. Yeah, you can promise pie in the sky and a fucking impaler and an impala and a rabbit in a hat. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can promise the fucking world when you're not in power. It's really simple. The Greens do it all the time, mate. You can promise the world. The fucking Refuck are doing it now. Promise the world that you're not in power. Of course you can. But if you don't have any executive political power whatsoever, you can't do fucking shit. And this is my thesis on this, right? Get our lot into power. And you might not like our lot. You might think that they don't have the right priorities. You might think that they do the wrong thing sometimes. And probably, yeah, they will. People will let you down. If you know someone who's never let you down in your entire life, then well fucking done. I'm going to assume that you just don't know people. People let you down. But at least we'll have the tips of our fingers on those levers of power, because otherwise it's just. And I'm sort of reticent to use the word performative, but it is performative. Going on stage at Glastonbury saying, imagine a world with no religion. Imagine a world where there's no body. Imagine all the people living for today. That's great. Are you going to do it? What's the process? You got to get into power. And just because you've got 500,000 people to join your fucking political party or your pressure group, if you can't translate that into votes in every single constituency in the country, then you're not going to get elected, are you? You've got to get the rural areas on board. You've got to get the northern areas on board that feel left behind. Or you don't win. It's no good getting 99% of the vote in Liverpool Riverside. Who gives a fuck? You only need 30% to win. Well, what's the point of all those wasted fucking votes? Go for some votes somewhere else. Put your laser focus on places where you just about win. Leave the places that you're going to win. You need to get more people from those places to vote for you. I know that sounds shit, but that's the system. That's You can't just go into a competition and say, I don't agree with the rules of this competition. Well, don't stand in it then. But this is it. The misunderstanding of what a political party is, I think, is crucial to the understanding of why what we call woke 1.0 has failed. Because people treat political parties like pressure groups, and they're not. We've got Greenpeace to do that. The Greens, the Green Party, need to have a fucking good defence policy. Greenpeace don't even have to think about that. They just have to think about the environment, right? The Greens need to think about way more. They need to think about education policy. They need to think about healthcare. They need to think about the fucking potholes in the fucking roads. They need to think about law and order and crime and justice. There's a lot more to think about than just green issues. Sorry, the environment. There's green issues, yeah? And when you have a Labour Party led by a guy who doesn't seem to have a fucking clue how to organise a piss up in a brewery, never mind how the logistics of giving everyone free internet's going to fucking work, you're not going to win. You're just not going to win. And the right know this. The right are so good at winning. Oh, my God, I'm 47 years old. I'm 47 years old, right? And 32 of the years that I've been alive, 30 fucking 2 of those years has been under a Tory government. More than twice the time that have been under a Labour government. More than twice the fucking time. Why? Because they're fucking good at winning elections. They're like the fucking Terminator in Terminator 2. You freeze them, you shoot them with a gun, they blow up into little fucking pieces, scattering, oh, good, he's dead, he's done for. But then the pieces start fucking glooping together. This happened after the Brexit vote. The Tories that gloop together. And then the Tory monster fucking rose again. Unfucking killable. A fucking Hydra. You cut off one fucking head of the Tories and another fucking 2 grow in its place. They're unstoppable, and they are an election winning machine. That's all they care about. Winning elections, winning power. Because they know that you can't do fuck unless you're in power. And that is a lesson that people on the left need to learn. And if that means coming together, great, let's do it. Let's work together. Let's work not just cross-party, but like within our own parties to make sure that we fucking win. We need that mentality because these aren't pressure groups. That's something different, Pressure groups as well. I mean, the way they go about things, we're up against lobbyists from the oil companies and the tobacco firms and the merchants of death in the defence industry who have got like all this money to lavish on MPs and shit. That needs to end. Absolutely needs to end for all of them. And we need to put pressure on Labour to fucking do that. But we always seem to fall into this trap of ignoring everything good that Labour's done, for instance. They have done a lot of good. The Workers' Rights Act, the bringing up minimum wage, the getting rid of the 2-child benefit cap, recognising Palestine as a nation, as a state, which is more than the Tories ever did. They have done the Renters' Rights Act is fucking amazing. It's brilliant. Well fucking needed. But putting tax on private schools, putting tax on farmlands that was just been bought as a tax dodge. Yeah, great, fucking do it. But they won't get any credit for that because of that one thing that they did that was really fucking shit. I mean, with PIP, it was like one thing they attempted to do that was really shit, and their own fucking backbenchers said, "No, you're not fucking doing this." Yeah. And you know what? The fucking trans guidance had gone through Parliament properly and there'd been a proper fucking vote on it, they probably would have lost. It's only guidance. It's not law. It's only guidance. It's only guidance to be horrible to people. Yeah, I found out my ex had been going back to her ex. Turns out I'm not crazy, and I want the problem. I'm sorry, Liam. I'm sorry, mate. Well, if it makes her happy, so be it. It's just the lies and deceit that's the problem. Oh, mate, I'm sorry. Graham's 47. Bro, I thought you were 40, Max. Oh, I'm really old. I'm going to be 50 in a few years' time. It's good lighting. Laughter. I'm not a religious person, but damn, yesterday was divine intervention. It's not true. Labour has avoided increasing taxes. Taxes were increased under Conservatives, the highest level since World War II. What you are frightened of is the propaganda of the right. Talking to Daz. Yeah, I mean, the right are very good at propaganda. They're very good at winning elections. They're very good at propaganda. And we're shit at it. And this is why I was quite excited about Andy Burnham becoming Prime Minister, because he actually gets the propaganda side of things. And let's call it what it is. It's fucking propaganda. Yep, he's on social media checking out Greg's pasties and shit. Yeah, and eating bar snacks. Yeah, it's what he needs to do. I've got no problem with that whatsoever. It's what you need to do if you want to win. And they have to win, because the alternative is Nigel fucking Farage. That's why the Tories love the first past the post electoral system. They will always win most of the time. They invented it and will oppose PR forever. Yep. But a lot of Labour people don't support fucking getting rid of first past the post, which is very, very frustrating. Because it doesn't serve Labour very well if they're only in power for 33 of every 33 years of every century. Martin sending Liam hugs. We're all sending Liam hugs at the moment. But yeah, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Mass deportations and removal of globalist agenda-controlled government are now required to save our civilization. Mass deportations and removal of globalist agenda-controlled government. Who are we deporting, and where are they going, James? Where are they off to? Mass deportations. We're going to deport people en masse. What if the countries that we're sending them to don't want them? What if they won't let the plane land? What do we do? Where do we put people? Do you just drop them onto an island somewhere? A death sentence? Drop them onto a rock in the middle of the North Atlantic? Is that the plan? I mean, you know, I don't really understand. Where do we stop? I mean, you know, I've got Irish heritage. Do I have to go? Let's go back to Ireland. I mean, you know, I'm ginger. Got to get to the Gab. Clearly Irish blood in me. Got any Irish in you? No. Do you want some? Hey. Do we have to send everyone who's Scottish back up to Scotland? I've got a mate who lives in Brighton who's Scottish. Does she have to go to Scotland, back up to Scotland? Do all the people born in Wales have to go back to Wales? How does this work? How does this deportation work? How far do you go back? Do you take the Huguenots, the refugees from 16th, 17th century France? Do we send them back? What do we send them? What about people who came across, you know, on the Windrush? Do they all have to go back to a country they haven't known for 60, 70 years? Do we have to send them back? What about the Anglo-Saxons? I mean, you know, or the Normans actually before then? Do you have to send everyone with a connection to William the Conqueror? You know, the Viking from France. Do you have to send them back to Normandy? What about the Anglo-Saxons? Do you have to send them back to Saxony? Do you have to send them back to Denmark? Do we have, what about the Picts? What about the Beaker people? Do the Beaker people need to be deported? I don't know where they came from, but they have beakers, apparently. You know, like in the Muppets. I always imagine the Beaker people all look like Beaker from the Muppets. Can Wales deport the English? I don't think so. Trouble with mass deportations, exactly that. Where to and what basis if they are here legally? People advocating this haven't thought it through at all. Yeah, I know. But I don't want to say, like, okay, so I'm going to pull rank here, as I do occasionally, because I'm quite interested in logistics. I'm quite interested in not the wants, but the hows. Like not just like what we want, but how do we do it? How do we go about achieving that goal? You know, how do we get to every country in the world without flying? How is that actually done? Can it be done? Well, yes, it can. There's a couple of Guinness World Records on my wall to show that it can be done. But like, what's the logistics behind it? When people come out with stuff like mass deportation, I'm just sitting there going, what's the logistics here? How do the logistics? So imagine we go door to door. We take people out of their homes. Okay, and then who gets the homes? You know, if they own their own home, does that get taken by the state? If they're paying rent to the landlord, are we under obligation to compensate the landlord who has to then look for someone else to take over the property to pay the rent? What about the work? Like they're at work. Do we compensate the companies that these people work for? that we're going to deport, these Picts and these Angles and these Saxons and these Normans. Are we everyone called Norman? Are we gonna, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna compensate the companies that they worked for because they're gonna have to find someone else to do that job? Is that what we're gonna have? And then we put them on a plane. Okay, so we've got to take them to an airport. Is it a civilian airport that we're gonna use? Do we have to pay for the? Obviously, we're gonna have to pay BA or whoever to use a plane. What if they haven't got a plane that we can use? What if they, all their planes are being used to fly people around the world and to make loads of money? So we're gonna have to charter a plane. We're gonna have to pay for that to charter the plane, and the mass deportations. I mean, you can only fit a few hundred people on a plane. Like, they're not that big. You're talking about mass deportations. You're talking about millions of people. Millions of people, right? So how many flights would it take? How much fuel would it take? And then you fly them to a particular place, and let's say Jamaica. So we fly a plane over to Jamaica, and then Jamaica says you can't land here. We're not going to give you permission to land. Well, we're going to land anyway. Well, we're going to put a truck on the fucking runway. Good luck with that. Okay, so we can't land this jumbo jet. Where should we go? Well, we won't go to Jamaica. We'll go to a nearby country. We'll go to Cuba. Well, and the Cubans are like, fuck off. We don't want this landing in our fucking country. Fuck off. We're not going to give you permission to land. But look, we'll put a truck on the runway now. So you get your plane flying on, goes to Haiti, goes to the Dominican Republic, goes to the US Virgin Islands, British Virgin Islands. Even they are saying, no, fuck off. We're like, but you're part of Britain. Let us land. And like, no, we're not landing here. And if you did land here, there wouldn't be people leaving Britain, would it, really? Because the fucking British Virgin Islands, part of Britain. Anguilla, okay, well, that's part of Britain as well, so you fucked with that. Turks and Caicos Islands, now they're going to take them. But if they did, it's still part of Britain, so there's still a British problem. Montserrat, that's still part of Britain. There's still a British fucking problem, British overseas territory. Good luck with that. Or maybe we could do one of the independent countries like St. Kitts and Nevis. They'll just say no. They don't even have a fucking land. They might not even have an airstrip that's long enough for us to fucking land the jumbo jet on. This jumbo jet's just flying around the Caribbean with these, 300 people on that we've taken from their homes. We've ripped them from their homes and with all their worldly possessions, by the way. Don't know how you're going to fit that into hand luggage. I'm going to fly, and you're going to pay for this. Because that plane's just going to come back. It's going to land back in fucking Bristol or Manchester or somewhere with all the people still on board. Because no one would let it land. You got to get permission to land in someone else's country. You can't just fucking turn up and demand that you land. The only places that you possibly do that, if you squint, like the BVIs or Turks and Caicos, or maybe the Cayman Islands. We like the Cayman Islands, don't we? Maybe the Cayman Islands. Maybe we'll drop them off there. But yeah, then they're still in a British territory. They're still in a British territory. And I don't think the people who actually live in these places are going to be very fond of essentially 300 refugees from Britain being dumped on in their country. Now they've got to find 300 houses or 300 places for these people to stay. We've got to find food for them. We've got to find clothing. Because then, like I say, hand luggage. Not going to be able to bring much stuff from home, are they? Not going to be able to bring their favourite lampshade, are they? So mass deportation. So maybe you could put them on a boat. Maybe you could put them on a boat. Maybe you could sail them somewhere on a big fucking boat. So you can fit a few thousand people on a boat. That's all right, isn't it? Maybe 5,000 people on the boat. We'll sail them off. And where are they going to go? Where are they going to go? St. Helena? Ascension Island? South Georgia Island? Go on. Where are they going to go? The Falkland Islands? The people who live there are going to be like, yeah, cool. Can the boat even fucking land there? Do they even have a port big enough for a ship that big? Did you think about that? No, because you haven't thought the logistics about mass deportations at all. But there you go. There's nowhere really in what's left of the British Empire for us to drop these people off in. So where are we going to drop them? We're taking to France. France said, no, this boat can't come into this port. We won't allow it to come alongside. We're just not going to allow it, which they are perfectly capable of doing because it's sovereignty. They can say, no, this is a British flag ship and we don't want it docking here. So then what you're going to have to do is you're going to have people in these boats who maybe get onto maybe you got like dozens and dozens of really big inflatables. You could put them in the inflatable and send them over to shore. But then the people on in the country that they've just landed in can legally deport them back to the UK the next day, legally, because these people are UK citizens. I'm sorry, but like, WTF. Viper Scott says, please be civil. You see what's happening here? You see, we talk about this. This is why we lose. This is why we always lose, because we just fight amongst ourselves. But yes, Here's another term I'm not familiar with. What's lefty syndrome? I assume it's nothing to do with left-handed people. Well, you know, there's left-handed people. That 10% of the population. Grr. Yeah, there were hardly any left-handed people before the 1960s because we forced everyone to write with the right hand, even if they were left-handed. And then suddenly in the 1960s, there was this huge fucking rise of people who were left-handed when people were finally allowed to write with their left hand. It's funny that, isn't it? I must suffer from lefty syndrome. I voted for the bloke who had me arrested. Hilgar was dropping this stuff in that I'm really intrigued at. You got to give me more info on this. Getting arrested is fucking horrific, and I think that if this is the case, and you were wrongful arrested, I think that we need to really get into this. No fried eggs for Ren. I forgot to turn the hob down and burnt them. Sag. Oh no! I'm sorry, Ren. Damn it. Going off on one about the logistics of mass deportation from this country. What do we do? What do we do? Do we have a special deal? Do we send them to Rwanda? You know how much that cost when we were doing the Rwanda deal? 700 million. 700 million. And that was to send 2 people. Imagine how much it cost to send 1 million people to Rwanda. Fucking crazy. Are you the famous woke blob? The mass deportation sounds like the one drop rule. Yeah. And the idea that all our problems would be solved with this one weird trick is just a nonsense. Most of the crimes that are committed in this country are committed by white people. Most of the murders are committed by white people. You get rid of all the people who aren't white, they're still going to be murders. There'd be a lot more incest, probably. But yeah, more murders, more abuse, more. This idea that we had, if we somehow had this homogeneous society where everyone looked the same, we'd all get along, it's just bullshit. Unless if you want that, go and live in North Korea. I know you can't because you don't look the same as the North Koreans. But it doesn't look like much fun. It doesn't look like much fun at all. In fact, it looks really fucking not fun. It looks the absolute fucking opposite of fun. And Britain is a global country. It has been now for hundreds and hundreds of years, ever since the East India Company was given a fucking royal prerogative or whatever the fuck it was called by Queen Elizabeth I. Go on, go out the world and do stuff, daring do. If anyone's here in this country from somewhere else originally, I mean, it's because we were there. They're here because we were there. Simple as that. You don't want that? Be North Korea? Fine, don't go anywhere. Just stay where you are. Put a wall around your country. And all have fun having your little government exercises in the morning. And don't think the wrong thing or they'll kill you. My other half is left-handed. So was his uncle, who was forced to be right-handed. It affected his mental health and he unalived himself. It was just about 50 years ago. Oh, God, I'm sorry to hear that, Jimmy. Bloody hell. That's fucking horrific. That is absolutely horrific. The whole left-handed thing is exactly the same thing as what's happening now. It happened with gay people and it's what's happening now with trans people. Where you've got people who do not believe that left-handedness is a thing back 50 years ago, and now they're the same people, the same crop of people, the crotch spawn of these, the people who were there 50 years ago are saying that trans people aren't a thing. Like the trans people, to a transphobe, trans people don't exist. They're just confused. Like someone who's left-handed is just confused with which hand to use. But yeah. Be like Muslim countries, protect our own beliefs and traditions instead of working towards a globalist hell. A global hell. I don't want to be like a Muslim country, James. Listen, James, come here, mate. I've been to every single Muslim country on the planet. Every single one. I've been there. Saudi Arabia, been there. Iran, spent a week there. It's fucking great. I've been to Afghanistan. I've been to Indonesia. Yeah, I've been to Morocco, Algeria, Libya, been to Egypt, been to Tunisia, been to Sudan, been to South Sudan, which is more animist Christian, but whatever. Been to Eritrea, which is about 50-50 Christian and Muslim. I've been to Somalia. I've been to all these places, right? And I got to tell you, I don't want to fucking live there, okay? Spent a month in UAE, right? In the height of summer in 2010, right? A month in Dubai. Don't want to live there, mate. Don't want to fucking live there. I don't want to live in a sterile, cultureless hellhole where if you look at the religious police the wrong way, you get whipped to death or buried up to your neck in the sand and have kids throw stones at your face until you fucking hemorrhage to death. All right? I'm going to pull rank here, because if you think that this country needs to be more like a Muslim country, can you fuck off and go and live in a Muslim country, right? Get up at like 5 a.m. when they wake you up with the call to prayer. Fine, eat all your food, let it all be fucking halal. I don't give a fuck. Go into a Sharia court because the woman that you thought you married was already married to somebody else and there was a big scam and now you're going to have to spend 2 days standing up in a prison cell and not be allowed to sit down and literally shit your pants while you're standing up, which happened to a friend of mine in Dubai. Okay? So, when you talk about we need to be more like Muslim countries, you're a fucking idiot, mate. I'm sorry, but tell me you've never left your mum's fucking spare room without telling me you've never left your mum's spare room. I don't want to be more like those countries. Those countries are like what we were 100 years ago. Don't want to go back there. I don't want to go back to a place where women aren't given rights. I'm not going to go back to a place where women can be legally raped in marriage. I don't want to go back to a place where a woman's testimony is only worth half of a man's. I don't want to go back there. I don't want to go to a place where gay people, my gay friends, are hung for being gay. Like what happens in Iran, like what happens in Saudi Arabia. Or women are stoned to death in a fucking soccer pitch in the middle of Kabul in Afghanistan. I don't want to go to that. Or women dressed as big blue ghosts because they can't be seen in public. Protecting our fucking, our culture. Yeah, we protect our culture. You go around the world, I see our culture everywhere. I see people speaking our language everywhere, in every fucking country in the motherfucking world. Everyone. Do you know what country don't speak English? Russia. Yeah? Who's attacking us right now? Russia. Russia's attacking Europe. Are you going on about that? Oh, yeah, you fucking love it. Fucking mad. Absolutely mad. Who the fuck would want that? People ask me, what's your favourite country in the world? It's fucking difficult. But you know what? I live here, don't I? Can't be that bad. It's not like a league table or nothing. But there are certain things that you just don't get in other countries. I'm not talking about biscuits or a decent cup of tea. I'm talking about like fucking health services. I'm talking about the way that we can actually say whatever the fuck we like in this country and we don't go to jail for it unless what we say is incitement to murder. Yeah, that's bad. That's something that you can't do. Can't call someone up and say, can you do a hit job on this person I don't like? That's against the law. But pretty much anything else, you can fucking say it. We're the country that had fucking brass-eyed paedophile special, for Christ's sake. No one went to jail. Yeah. Arguing a country should protect their customs and traditions, not that we should be a Muslim country. That was my understanding. Yeah, but they don't. What cultures and traditions are there in the fucking UAE? Have you been there? It's a sterile fucking hellhole. What culture and traditions are being protected in Egypt? It was taken over by Arabs. There were no fucking Egyptians left in Egypt. They've been outbred. They're not there anymore. It's just that no one. There's hardly any Coptic Christians left in the whole of Egypt. They're in the vanishing minority. Even though they're the ones who carry on the sort of traditions of the old days of Egypt. I mean, it's just such a bad example. I'm just like, what? And then where do you draw the line and say this is our tradition, this is our culture, and then it's not? Some twat made a fucking song about sausage rolls and it went to number 1 for 5 fucking years in a row at Christmas. I think that's not part of our culture. I don't want that celebrated. I don't want to be like, every year you got to have a fucking sausage roll, fucking base number 1, a novelty fucking song coming to number 1. I don't want that part of our culture. James is gone. Oh, well, bye-bye then. You've been deported. You've been deported. Sorry, James. You've been deported by our mods. So bye-bye. How did it feel being deported? Did it feel good? Well, there you go. Traditions like stolen Morris dancing. Stolen Morris Minor dancing. It's dancing on top of a Morris Minor that you've stolen. Remember the Pizza Hut song? No, I do not remember the Pizza Hut song. But yeah, protecting our traditions. Where are these people protesting against McDonald's and Costa? I suppose Costa was British, but it's owned by Coca-Cola now. Where are the people protesting outside Starbucks and Gap? Where are the people protesting outside the Apple store? That's taking our culture away. That's swamping us with American culture. Where are the people protesting outside the cinemas because they're showing American films? with British actors and British directors in the case of The Odyssey or Spider-Man. Obviously, Spider-Man's played by a Brit. But, I mean, it's American culture set in fucking The Odyssey. It's Greek culture. Coming over here with your Greek culture. This idea that culture is a zero-sum game, it's like an absolute fucking madness. Do you not think there was a bit of back and forth between rock and roll in America and the Beatles over here? Do you think if it hadn't been for Chuck Berry, we would have had the Beatles? No, we fucking wouldn't. The Twist and Shout was one of the first hits by the fucking Beatles. Do you know what I mean? Like, we have been forever cross-pollinated by culture from other places. Ska and reggae didn't start in the UK. But fucking Madness ran with it, didn't they? UB40 ran with it. The Specials ran with it. It became part of our fucking culture. I fucking love Madness. What a great fucking band. I fucking love the Beatles. What a great fucking band. But their music came from American rock and roll, which came from the black music, the soul music that had existed since slavery. This is the world we live in, and I've got no problem with it. Yeah, our national dish is now tikka masala. Chicken tikka masala. They don't even have that in bloody India. In India, most of the meals you have are vegetarian, by the way, because Hindus don't tend to eat meat. But, so there's your chicken out of the equation. And most of the meals that you eat are quite dry. They're quite dry, do you know what I mean? Like, you don't necessarily have, like, basically gravy, spicy gravy. It was invented in Britain. But it's a cross-cultural dish, and it tastes fucking amazing. I love getting a kebab. I love going to my Chinese takeaway and getting some Chinese fucking food. Liverpool's got the oldest Chinatown in fucking Europe. It's fucking great. We've also got the oldest mosque in the country in Liverpool. I don't have a problem with it. It's great. Do you know what? If there's a church that's fucking fallen down and a group of Muslims want to take it over and turn it into a mosque, fucking do it. I'd like to see that building still look lovely, right? And still be used by the community. I don't give a fuck whose God you're praying to or how you're doing it. I don't give a shit whether you're on your knees or you got your bum in the air. I don't give a fuck. I just don't want that building to collapse because it's a beautiful old neo-Gothic building that I'd like to keep it. Thank you very much. But you're not a church anymore. No one goes to fucking church anymore. Shut up. Britain's favourite food, fish and chips. Fried fish is Jewish. Fried spuds are French. Yep, that's true. It's not true of all Islamic countries. Albania, Turkey, even Indonesia has diversity. Yep, that's very true, Ernie. We were talking about that the other day about Indonesia. So you've got the island of Flores, which is Christian. You've got the island of Bali, which I've been to. I've also been to Flores, which is Hindu. And then you've got West Papua, which I've also been to, which is animist. So yeah, there's the indigenous beliefs, ancestor worship, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, even these countries that they're not even. And then you look at somewhere like UAE, it's 95% immigrants, for Christ's sake. Yeah, talk about culture. It's a fucking shopping mall. There's no culture there. There's no underground art scene. There's no underground music scene because there can't be. The only people who are there are fucking Nepo babies and people avoiding tax, and they don't tend to be too artistic. Miss Paula Thomas, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Culture is organic. Trying to freeze it is just swimming against the tide. Yeah. Take your point, Graham. Getting a beef madras in India may be difficult. Yeah, it'd be impossible. And I've been to India. I've travelled all over fucking India. I've been to Chittagong. I've been to Delhi. I've been to New Delhi. I've been to Agra. I've been to fucking Joppa and Jaipur and Jaisalmer. I've been to Udaipur. I've been to fucking Puri. I've been to fucking the Kerala backwaters. I've been to Port Cochin or Fort Kochi or whatever it's called these days. I've been to Bangalore. I've been to Madras, which is now called Chennai. I've been to Kolkata, which used to be called Calcutta. I've been to all these. I've been to Darjeeling. I've had a fucking cup of tea of Darjeeling. I've had some Darjeeling tea in Darjeeling, for fuck's sake. And know of which I fucking speak. All right? And like, it's a fucking culture thing. It's like, oh, no, it's going to come and take our culture away. Britain, for hundreds of years, has been a crossroads of culture because we dominated the sea for so long. And that is fucking great. That's what's great about Britain. And thinking that, we get rid of all the foreigners, then we'd be really... No, then you just be left with a load of fat fucking meat-headed twats who beat their wives, go the footy, drink too much, puke and shit all over the fucking pavement each Saturday night, get into a fight, get into trouble. Ugh, British culture. That's not British culture. That's British fucking culture. Confetti Fix Time. Thank you very much for the Confetti Fix Time from Viper Scott. £2 super chat there. Got another £2 super chat. Now you have 1 minute and about 30 seconds to get one more super chat in, and we'll be able to do the thing. Do the thing. Viper Scott, Confetti Time. Yes, you did it. You did it. And we're going to go for Bin Face, Brain Face, Confetti. Woohoo! Woohoo! There's me. Hello. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Viper Scott. That is very kind of you, Alistair. I really appreciate that. You awesome person. You. Scottish culture. Fucking amazing. Absolutely fucking amazing. What a place. What a place. Should we see if we can get some Boba Fetty? I've kind of got overboard here. We've been going for like 1 hour and 25 minutes. I got overboard on my first story here. But it is interesting, isn't it, that we get people on and go, the way that we're going to solve all of life's problems is by getting rid of all the people who don't look like me. I'm sorry. I know we probably shouldn't laugh at these people who are so fucking gloriously demented. But what else can you do? People who genuinely believe that if we got rid of everyone who talks different, then society would be great. You still get twats. This is the thing. No culture, no group, no society, no tribe, no city, no town in the world is devoid of twats. And if you're the one saying, oh, we should get rid of all these people who don't look like me, maybe you're the twat. Maybe you're the problem. Maybe you're the person who's making life unpleasant for everybody else around you. Do you ever think of that? They speak Welsh in Argentina. They do. Wales should take over Argentina. Yeah. Thanks to Mike Dix for the Graham Pfeffy. the Graham Bim Pfeffy. It's a simple answer. It's been being used again. Check out pre-war Nazi posters. Yeah, no. Considering the sort of mentality that's taken my right away to have a piss, yes, I will mock the ever-living stuff out of it. Yeah, it seems so petty, doesn't it? Like vindictive and petty. Like, if I can stop these women from going for a piss, then my life will be so much better. And same way people thought that leaving the EU would make their lives better. They honestly believed that their lives would be improved, which they haven't been. And no one can give a tangible improvement in anyone's life because of Brexit. We can give tangible cases where people's lives have got much worse, demonstrably worse. I mean, we're all poorer as a result of it. If we're not already enormously rich, then you know. But yeah, just to go back to the whole top of the show point here. Without the ability to enact legislation, redistribute wealth, restructure institutions, battle shifted towards universities, language, statues, media, workplaces, and it produced an illusion that progressives were enormously powerful when actually their actual control over the state was limited. It gave the right a way of going, oh, look, the elites, they called us the metropolitan elites. You had privately educated, trust fund fucking twats like Nigel Farage, who Layla Cunningham, also privately educated, would say, oh, he had it hard, he left school at his 18, didn't go to university. Yeah, he didn't need to go to university because his dad was a fucking stockbroker in the city of London. And what job did Nigel Farage get at the age of 18? Being a fucking stockbroker in a commodities trader in the city of London. I wonder whether nepotism played a role in him getting that job. I wonder. Why wonder? Why? Yeah, Nigel Farage had it so up, but you got people like Dominic Cummings, who went to the Pross private school down the road here, the Durham School for Boys. Durham School for Girls was bought by a Chinese company because it's a private school and private schools can be bought by private companies, and they shut it down. I stripped it. I shouldn't laugh because it's a bit shit, and I know people whose kids went there, and I feel bad for them. But just as a lesson in capitalism, if you don't want a Chinese company to buy your school, don't have a private fucking school. You know what I mean? Anyway, he went to the Durham School for boys, which is still going. The school for girls has been shut down. But the Durham School for Boys, very expensive, £30,000 a year, I think. Send your kids there now. His parents have a huge estate not far from the city centre here in Durham. And he didn't live in poverty at any point in his life. He lived a life of luxury. He now lives in a castle. With his incredibly rich wife, and he was, he had his hands on the levers of power when Boris Johnson was prime minister, and he got into his car saying, "I've got to get out of London. I've got to get away from all these the metropolitan elite. I've got to get away from all these elites." He got to go and fucking off and live in his castle for a few days. I mean, yeah. Love the Welsh for microwave though. We should steal it. Isn't it property ping? Is that a myth? Sounds like Nigel spent his school days bullying people and being a racist idiot rather than learning anything. Yeah, he didn't need to. And this is a point that I make time and time again. Rich people do not need to go to university. I'm sick of having it. We had this last week, didn't we? The A-level results. And what, like fucking night follows day. We had Jeremy Clarkson saying, "I got a C and a U and an N and a T in my A-levels. And look at me now. I've got a helicopter." I'm like, he went to private school, mate. Your parents had some money. They could pay. Pay your way. I don't feel bad for them. It's a posh school and a sexist one. Bye Durham School. It's a sexist one. I mean, it's a school for women, girls. Yeah, I don't really agree with dividing kids up into gender groups. It's a bit weird these days. Well, there's one way I like. Thanks for the guidance. I'm now banned from that school for boys. Little victories, eh? You're banned from the school for boys. And the fucking the guidance is clear as mud. Was it 600 pages of bullshit? Fucking yeah. Microcontroller, proper word rather than property ping. Yeah, I thought property ping might be an urban myth. I listened to part of that reform welfare cut speech, and it sounded remarkably like the noise came from the mouths of German National Socialists of the 1930s. Couldn't agree more. But yeah, I want to get back onto this whole thing about logistics, right? Because I think this is really important. And it ties in with James the Troll's point about, he wants to deport everyone, and me sitting here going, well, how do we do it? And like working out how we get a lot of people off this island and put them somewhere else and how that would work. These countries will, if we put refugees in, or people, refugees from the UK, not even deportees from the UK, the country that we're sending them to have to accept them. If the country that doesn't want to accept them, then we can't force that country to accept them. And if we send people in the middle of the night on small boats to invade the country, then the country is well within its rights to send them back and send us to bill. But I want to bring this back to what I was talking about why Woke 1.0 arguably failed. And it comes to logistics, right? Always comes back to logistics. Cultural power versus state power. Someone being criticised on Twitter is not the equivalent to government censorship. Removing or protesting against a statue is not equivalent to a government removing university funding for certain courses or university funding in general. An employer dismissing someone after an online controversy is not equivalent to the state imprisoning protesters, which is what the state is doing, And Malik argues in her piece that she says that commentators now regularly treat these very different forms of power as equivalents, whereas it allows the authoritarian right to present its use of actual government power as merely a retaliation against progressive cancel culture. So you've got a cultural movement that doesn't really matter. It's just like people fucking getting the pile on Twitter for saying something fucking stupid or whatever, right? And then the response to that is actual government legislation to say, no, that person should be allowed to write something racist. That person should be allowed to write, or all they did was ... And the question asked by Malik, rhetorically, she asks, did wokeness create Trump? And she says, essentially, no. But one increasingly popular argument is progressive excesses alienated ordinary voters and therefore produced Trump MAGA. But the Malik rejects a stronger version of his claim. The authoritarian right will not have behaved this way without provocation for the left. But Trumpism has used executive authority against universities, protesters, institutions, blaming that on progressive activists rather than risks treating the right's political program as involuntary rather than an involuntary reaction rather than a deliberate project. And it was a deliberate project. They created the boundaries around what they called woke. Anything, being nice, being a decent person, being a do-gooder, caring about your society, caring about your community was made you branded as woke and was seen as unseemly by the right. And what they want is selfishness, psychopathy, the rudeness, no manners, no decency, no sense of decency, no sense of self-reflection, but whereas I'm not going to say, and Malik doesn't say, that it's all our fault that Trump exists in the same way that some people say, oh, it's all Remainers' fault that Brexit didn't work. I'm like, you got the fucking, if someone gives you that argument, just tell them to fuck off to their stupid fucking dickhead faces. I mean, what the fuck? Sorry, what? What? It was, yeah, because if you'd let us do the Brexit we would have wanted to do, then it would have been great. No. Okay, here's a few things, right? So first of all, the Tories got in with an 80-seat majority in December 2019 and could do what the fuck they wanted, right? They could do whatever the fuck they wanted at that point. They were in charge and they had a huge majority and they could do whatever they wanted, and they did. And the deal they struck with the EU was exactly the deal that they wanted to have struck with the EU. It was supported by Nigel Farage at the time. Nigel Farage stood his MPs, his candidates aside in Tory seats, so the Tories would get a majority. If he hadn't done that, they wouldn't have got a majority. They probably would have had some weird fucking meffed up coalition between Farage's lot and the Tories. But yeah, the blaming the Remainers for how Brexit turned out. No, Brexit was a terrible idea. Brexit is it will always be a terrible idea, and I'll tell you why. And this is the hill on which I will die on. We're not going to get a great fucking trade deal with Lesotho. They don't have enough money. They don't have enough money to buy anything from us. And I mentioned Lesotho, but I could say Eswatini, I could mention Botswana, I could mention Angola or Democratic Republic of Congo or Cameroon or Chad or Central African Republic or Niger or Nigeria or Burkina Faso or Togo or Benin or Ghana or Cote d'Ivoire. I could keep going. There's about 150 countries that haven't got a fucking pot to piss in, and they're not going to buy a Nissan Qashqai. Then none of them are going to buy they're not going to buy a Nissan Qashqai from us because it requires it to be put on a boat and brought over to their country, and it's just not going to happen. Most people in those countries just want some cheap phone, cheap accommodation, somewhere to live, and cheap food and cheap clothing. That's it. Can we provide any of those things? No, we can't. Can China? Yeah, it fucking can. But we'll get a fucking fantastic trade deal with Eritrea or Somalia or Djibouti. You'll get a great trade deal with Djibouti. And even in the countries that are relatively wealthy, I mean, they're fucking tiny. So New Zealand's got a population of 4.7 million. Australia's only got a population of 25 million. It's fucking tiny. Now, do you know who we can get really good fucking trade going with? Our nearest neighbours in France, Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, Denmark, Norway. Well, not Norway. Well, yeah, Norway. Yeah, it's not part of the EU, but it's part of the trading bloc, isn't it? Sweden, even Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania. They've got money to spend. Poland, Romania, Bulgaria, Greece, Croatia, Italy, Malta, Cyprus, Switzerland's again. It's not part of the EU, but being part of the EU makes it easier to trade with Sweden. And the thing is, the countries that would want to have a deal with, like Canada, Japan, Australia, the EU had deals with them, or was working on deals with them. The EU's got a fantastic deal with Mercosur, the trade bloc in South America. We don't. Got a shit deal with them. Got a shit deal with Australia. Keep saying this. We can't sell any beef to them. not a soggy brisket. They can sell 20,000 tons of beef, tariff-free. It's great, that. Great for British farmers. Ernie Burns says, Remainers had absolutely no power over Brexit. If quietly saying that sticking your face in a fan while someone puts their face in the fan is correlation, not causality. Yeah. I do find it odd that our friend Jimmy talked about civilization and legal people in the same sentence. They're mutually exclusive. Well, yeah, that's a good point, Gallifreyan man. Illegal people. How can people be illegal? I don't know. The night was schlong and I was riding home. Ooh. Sounds like fun. But yeah, did wokeness create Trump? No. But did progressive excess help the right? Yes. Irritating, preachy, or punitive behavior can alienate persuadable people. Language became unnecessarily inaccessible to some progressive spaces, and people were gatekeepers, and they still are to this day. Social media encouraged activists to fight one another over tiny fucking differences, the big enders and the little enders, which side of the egg to fucking break. And corporations cheapened progressive causes by turning them into branding exercises. It doesn't mean that racial equality, women's rights, LGBT rights, or opposition to discrimination were mistakes. It doesn't follow that authoritarian is a proportional and inevitable response. But, that backlash was organised. Progressive didn't simply wake up one morning and discover that public opinion had seriously changed. Political movements, wealthy donors, media organisations, and conservative institutions actively organised against progressive causes. And that imbalance matters because the activists had cultural visibility. Their opponents increasingly gained institutional and governmental power. We need to win. We need to win. We need to win. That's it. Forget everything else. Forget arguing amongst ourselves. We need to fucking win. We need to come together and we need to win. Again and again and again. Because the more that we win, the more we win. The more we can actually do stuff. The more we keep the wolf from the door. The wolf being fascism. And Malik specifically cites the hounding of Jason Arday as an example of backlash against progressive gains. And the significance in our argument is the post-woke era is simply not just society returning to sensible moderation. And it can also involve renewed hostility towards minorities who achieve prominence, to which someone like, I guess, James would look at and say, well, they shouldn't have had that job because they don't look like me, as if someone who is white deserves a job just by dint of being white. But yeah, and it's also worth pointing out the fucking Guardian jumped in on the whole hounding of Jason Arday as well. The left-wing media sources jumped on that as well, jumped on that fucking bandwagon and rose it to Jason Arday's death, his lynching, his effective lynching by the media, which is horrific, which is fucking horrific. This is someone writing in the Guardian as well. But yeah, so why did woke lose? The Malik's broad diagnosis on this is cultural victories were mistaken for permanent political victories. Activists lacked durable political organisation. I mean, fucking hell. Don't talk to me about the way that the Remain campaign was run. But a bunch of fucking Tories running a half-assed fucking People's Vote campaign. They wouldn't tell anyone when there was a march, wouldn't tell anyone when anything was fucking happening until it was too late, until the cost of getting the train was through the roof. They were just shit. They were just really fucking shit. They're all fighting amongst themselves. The very first march I think I went on was actually in Manchester, and this would have been in 2017. I think maybe in the summer of 2017, or maybe it was after the march that we did in London in 2017, because I was actually the MC. I was the MC on stage on the one of the first marches against Brexit, which wasn't organised by the People's Vote. It was before that existed. And I went to this march in Manchester. I've told the story before, so regulars might recognise it. And we met up outside the old Student Union building, and on Oxford Road. And I was amazed that it started off, and there was like a little stage at the start, so people were doing a few speeches before we started the march down Oxford Road, right? And I remember seeing a big piece of paper backstage, right? And it had the list of people who were not invited. These were Remainers who were not invited. not allowed to be seen. I'm not allowed to. I was like, fucking hell, right? So it wasn't like a guest list, it was like an anti-guest list. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Right, so then, we start the march. And me being a dickhead, assume, because there's a rally going on, right? I assume that we're going to march to the rally. This is what we normally do. When I organised a march in Manchester in 2019, that's what we did. We marched down Oxford Road, we walked to Castlefield, and we had a rally by the canal there, right? This one ended near the NCP car park, the old bus station on Princess Road. I think it was Princess Road. And and then it just stopped. And the actual rally was on the other side of town, near the cathedral. Just like you got to walk all the way through the city centre to get to the cathedral, right? Manchester Cathedral's just a big church, but whatever. I suppose all cathedrals are big churches, but Manchester in particular, it's a very unimpressive cathedral. Sorry, Manchester, it just is. I know I'm showing off because Liverpool's got 2 cathedrals, and one of them's pretty good. But yeah, anyways, Marchurst Town, I'm like, what's going on? I find out that these 2 groups had organised protests on the same day. And one had organised with the council to do a march, and the other one had organised with the council to do a rally. And they all hated each other. And that was at the very beginning of the Remain movement. And it just kind of went downhill from there. And the amount of vitriol, I mentioned Madalena Kay earlier, the shit she got from Remainers, like just online was just horrific. I'm not going to repeat what some people said. And I was like, what the fuck's she done? Oh, she dresses up in clothes and, gets all the attention on it. Yeah, fine. She's a good-looking young woman. Why not just have someone as a talisman to hold up and say, look, a young European who wants to stay in fucking Europe, and give a fuck. What should I be? Should I be the cover model? No, a fucking podgy, fucking middle-aged, fucking ginger bastard. No, I'd much rather someone who will, when the GAMs are going through the paper and they're like, oh, maybe we should stay in Europe because this is what people who want to stay in Europe look like. I think I'm going to turn any fucking heads. But no, just the jealousy and the so much internecine is that, I don't know what that word is, but so much feuding that went on with different priorities and different groups that didn't get on and had an argument about priorities and which things. And my attitude for a long time was just, we don't know what's going to work. We don't know what's going to work, so let's just give it all a go. Let's just give everything a go. We don't know what's going to work because we've never had to fight something like this before. And they're like, no, we can't do that. Oh, no, we can't go for a march. What if no one turns up? I don't give a fuck if no one turns up. And then they'll say that, oh, no one's supposed to. And like, it doesn't matter. Oh, we shouldn't do this. We shouldn't do that. And it was like, we'd have these fucking meetings. And I've been to, like, no offense to any of the groups, right? Because I've been to a few meetings, right, of different Remain groups around the country, right? And they always went the same fucking way. Started off, here's the agenda, here's what we're going to talk about. And then one of them, who I think was a plant by the CIA myself, would just sit there and go on about how important it was that we stayed in the EU. I'm like, yeah, we know. It's like going, it's like sitting down before a footy match with the team and talking strategy, and someone's giving you the history of fucking football, and you're like, what the fuck? We don't need this, we know. We've got to explain very, very slowly why football is so important. Just people who like the sound of their own voice and just go on and on and on. Someone who would talk for 65 and a half fucking hours on a live stream at some point. That kind of person. And you just like, I just want to get stuff done. I remember having a meeting, and there was one person who would just rabbit on for fucking ages. And then like we had a meeting without that person, and the meeting lasted for 7 minutes. And normally a meeting would be an hour at least. And it's because this guy would just rabbit on about bullshit that had nothing to do with it. And I just end up getting frustrated. I'd just be like, come on. But yeah, I mean, I really did have my fingers burnt trying to get involved and trying to do stuff with the Remain movement. And I just thought that is exactly what it's like on the left, just trying to get people together. The Greens are seeing this now. This obviously happened with Labour under Corbyn. But it's happening now with the Greens. They're all falling out with each other because of different priorities and people thinking that this thing is more important, this thing is more, and meetings just descending into fucking anarchy. I mean, it's happening a little bit with refuck, but it needs to happen more with refuck. But yeah. Andrew Ray, did you hear that 1.57 million EVs were purchased in July since Trump started his war with Iran? BYD sold most in EU and UK, but were banned in the US. They are better and cheaper than Teslas. Yeah, good. Bring them on. Bring them on. Bring them on. ADHD would not have helped while listening to the slow talker. Lol, says Ernie. Mate, it's fucking torture. It was just fucking torture. I was like, you know, I when I'm watching videos on YouTube and that, I was having on double speed. Like I couldn't sit there. I just couldn't. I was told I got to sit there. Gallifreyan, I don't know if I qualify as on the left. All I want is for minorities and disabled people to treat it like actual people. Yeah, well, I think that should be a left-leaning thing. That should be a left-leaning thing. You know, as the right, they just want everyone. They just want to be horrible to everyone. The right will pretend to be welcoming to various groups and have token minorities in their ranks. They will build a coalition while representing the interests of a few billionaires. Yeah. Did find out what girding the loins means. It's a thing they sort of pull out the robes up and make sort of into a big nappy so they can run around. What? Salford RC Cathedral is lovely. Manchester part of Salford Diocese. Meanwhile, leftists will fall out of the smallest difference while alienating most people. Yeah. Flip. Yep. Yep. Exactly. Absolutely, exactly. And there are a lot of people who, you know, had well-meaning people, but who actively worked as gatekeepers and blockers and told people not to do things. Not, no, you're doing it wrong. No. And also people who wanted to muscle themselves into other people's stuff because they needed their right to say something. Like people who wanted to come on stage when we were organising rallies and stuff and getting really upset if we were like, oh, we don't really have time. And they're like, no, I should be on stage. And we had some people who were just shite on stage. And they were taking up time that like it could have been, you know, Femi or someone who's good at public speaking, you know, on stage with someone who's just literally, you know, they've got a bit of paper in front of them and they're looking down at it and they're going, and you can see people walking off. You'll see people in the crowd just walking off. But yeah, progressive social media activism, arguably fragmented movements, you know. Activists lacked durable political organisation. Especially I think Remain is just a really good example of this. Is because a lot of us were from different political backgrounds. There were some hard left people. Well, not many. Mostly they supported Brexit, but there were some people who were like, you know, Labour. There's some people who were Lib Dems. There's some people who were Tories. But then you get people who go, I don't want these Tories coming. I don't want these Tories coming on the march. I'm like, let the Tories come on the march. Let the Tories allow other Tories to see that wanting to be part of the EU can be part of their Tory identity. Because a lot of people don't regard that now as a possibility. They can't be a good Tory and think that we should stay in Europe. I'm not saying that one, by the way, just let me say the whole picture, not paint by numbers solution, says Hidden Night. I remember going on a call with you, Graham, and the guy was going on about how many different domain names we needed to register instead of actually just getting on with it. Oh, Lee, I wasn't going to bring up specifics, but I still don't think I'm over that. I honestly don't think I don't think I'm so traumatized by that. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to be part of a committee for anything ever again. Yeah. Me and Lee are having a little private conversation here. I don't want to bring everyone in on because I try not to talk about stuff that's happened, you know, behind closed doors at the best of times. But yeah. He was talking about budget and the group didn't have 2 pennies to rub together. Yeah, with just yeah. Yeah. I'm not gonna go into it. I'm having flashbacks, mate. I'm having fucking flashbacks. But just imagine that you're trying to organise a protest and you're sitting there for an hour trying to explain to someone why they don't need to buy 50 different domain names, why that's not necessary, and that a server that you buy doesn't mean there's a box sitting in your living room with your website on it. It's like trying to explain the laws of thermodynamics to a pigeon. Painful. Black Dog Barking says people who think Andy can get decent social contract with only 30% of the vote do not understand what happened to Starmer. Electoral reform is the only way to deal with Israel and social inequality. I find that interesting. I don't think Starmer's problem was that he only had 30% of the vote. I think Starmer's problem was communication. Like, his comms were shit. A lot of the things that Andy Burnham's taking credit for now are stuff that was put in place by Starmer. And he says, we had Corbyn and Cameron as the leaders. It was like having no leaders at all. They wouldn't even share the same stage. Yeah, that's true. Graham is having an all quiet on the Western Front moment after Lee brought up whatever it is that scared. It didn't scare me. It just fucking traumatized me, mate. Absolutely traumatized me. Just like, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? I've inherited my mum's talent for plants. If I've inherited my mum's talent for plants, any carrot looked after by me should be taken away by child services anyway. We need media reform as well. Stop these sodding billionaires meddling. Yeah. But like, I want to just pick up on what Black Dog Barkin's saying there. I agree that electoral reform needs to happen in this country. I think first past the post isn't fit for purpose, right? Especially in a multi-party system where it's not just a duality. But I don't understand how electoral reform is going to deal with Israel or social inequality, particularly. I mean, social inequality, maybe. But here's the thing, right? The refuck, what's it called? The Fraud-referendum, the Brexit referendum, right? It wasn't constituency by constituency, was it? I know they counted it in the constituencies, but it was overall. So despite the fact that Northern Ireland and Scotland voted overwhelmingly, Scotland, every single constituency voted to remain. Their wishes were overruled by the majority in England and Wales who voted to leave the European Union. I mean, as proportional representation, there you go. Over 50% of people apparently wanted something. But the corruption at the heart of that vote was legion. Like, the billionaires, the foreign billionaires, the Russians, the oil companies, the usual suspects, spent billions of pounds fucking our system from within, right? They did that. It was a whole fucking process. I think they worked it all out, how they were going to do it. And they did it. And they did it very effectively just to get their toe over the line, right? So, first of all, as with most referendums, the side that spends the most on advertising wins. And I don't see how that translates into doing something about Israel. For instance, standing up against Israel's abominable treatment of the Palestinian people. I don't see how that translates because the vast majority of the people in this country either don't give a shit about Israel and Palestine or, don't actively think that what Israel is doing is a good thing. I know that's a bitter pill to swallow, but it's true. The vast majority of the people in this country wanted to keep the 2-child benefit cap. I know that's horrific, but it's true. Making things more democratic doesn't necessarily give you the results that you want. And I mention this all the time when I talk about Australia, where voting is compulsory. They also have a form of proportional representation over there. And the Liberal Party, which is the Tory party over there, they win. They win a lot of the time. They win more than the Labour Party does over there. Probably because Labour spells Labour without the U, which is a silly thing to do. But yeah, this is why I try to avoid the trap of thinking that there's one way that will give me the results I want in politics. Because I don't know. I don't know what lever I need to pull in order to get my way in politics. But I do know there is a way to not get your way in politics, and that's by having people who you have absolutely nothing to do with, no contact with, someone who wouldn't piss on you if you're on fire as your MP or as the people in the government. Then you're going to get 100% of what you don't want. rather than 10% of what you don't want. The basic premise of a binding advisory referendum not only invalidated it, but made it illegal, not to mention Cambridge Analytica. Yep, I know. Yeah. Hidden Knight says, I'm sorry, but I see Burnham as a wet blanket, but then again, it's just me. I'm not a fan. It wasn't with Kia, but his rating is 18% and Andy is 11%. It's just my opinion anyway. Yep. I mean, look, if I was the leader of Labour right now, if I was the Prime Minister, fucking so many people would absolutely fucking hate my guts. And they'll find things out, you know, oh, he did this, he did that, or he said this, he put this post on Twitter 15 years ago. What a bastard. And there'll people who just take a dislike to me, you know. Of course they will. I mean, people do the same to you. They'll take a dislike to you. People just do that sometimes, especially when you're in politics. And, you know, you've decided that Andy Burnham's a cunt, and that's it now. You know, there'll be. I don't think there's anything once someone has decided that. I don't think there's anything that people can do to change. Well, there's nothing Andy Burnham can do to change anyone's mind, because no matter what he does, even if he does something fucking amazing and wonderful, he should have done it a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, or a month ago, or, you know, whenever. He should have done it on day one. That's the thing he should have done on day one. And this is why being in politics today is so fucking difficult. We talk about only getting 30% of the vote. Well, I think that's the maximum any party's going to get going forward. So any kind of future government will be a coalition. And you can imagine what a coalition between the refuckers and the Tories is going to look like. Yeah. Wet blankets are good for putting grease fires out. That's true. People involved with other sports can see a massive difference in the support they get helping other people, says Black Dot Barking. And the Russians paid half that amount of money, and the right-wing press and the oil companies pay for the rest of Brexit, says Andrew Ray. Yeah. Roger Devine is there. Just morning people, just popping on for 10 minutes while I'm on break at work. Hello. If I was leader of Labour, you would want me gone because I look like a wet blanket. I think anyone being PM of a country, they shot themselves in the foot with it. Brexit will always have a hard time. Yeah. And people just decide that they hate someone, and that's it, you know. And again, this is why it's difficult. It is difficult. And it is unfair, and it shouldn't be like this, but it is, right? I was willing to give Jeremy Corbyn the benefit of the doubt until the Brexit referendum, which he lost. And I was like, fuck him, get rid of him, get a new fucking leader in. Half of his fucking cabinet left, all of his cabinet left. Some 30 fucking members of his cabinet left. Said, no, we don't want to work with this guy. And yet he clung on to power. He lost the 2017 election. And he was running around going, well, it's obvious who won that election. I said, yeah, not you. He did better than they thought he was going to do. They kept him on for another couple of years. Meanwhile, he lost a load of Labour councillors. He lost a bunch of. He lost the European election in 2019, just taking 14% of the vote in that election. 14% of the vote for a National Party, and then got absolutely hammered in an election that was his decision to have. In I don't care what Phil Morehouse says about this. It was Jeremy Corbyn's decision to have that election. If Jeremy Corbyn has dug his heels in and said, no, we're not having an election in the middle of winter, that's mad, the things could be very different. We could have had a government of national unity, of Harriet Harman in charge. But Corbyn didn't want that because he's driven by stupidity and ego. He's a fucking dickhead. But I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, at least for the first year of him being leader of Labour. Even though I didn't vote for him, I voted for Andy Burnham. Now I've got my wish. Andy Burnham is leader, and I think he's doing a lot better job than Keir Starmer. I think he's doing a lot better job than Corbyn. I think he's doing a lot better job than Ed Miliband, and he's doing a much better job than Gordon Brown as Prime Minister. As he hasn't invaded a fucking country yet. I think he's doing a better job than Tony Blair. So that's all the Labour leaders of my fucking lifetime. Well, you know, Neil Kinnock and John Smith, notwithstanding, obviously, Neil Kinnock lost a couple of elections, so I had to go. And sadly, John Smith passed away. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, first impressions count. Obviously, and I've got a connection with Andy Burnham because of his work with the Hillsborough campaign, and also with us both being from Liverpool, basically, and having similar upbringings. Unlike everyone else who's ever fucking been in charge of anything ever. Keir Starmer, I know it turned up private while he was there, but he did go to private school. Jeremy Corbyn did go to a private prep school. He grew up in very different circles to me. Let's put it that way. I always say if Keir did what Andy did, we wouldn't hear the end of it, of how bad he is of being PM. If Keir did what? Well, Keir, we did it. Never hear the end of how bad he was an MP. Apparently, he was the worst PM. So he was the worst PM ever. He was worse than Liz Truss somehow. I mean, fucking hell. He wasn't great. His comms were fucking awful, and that's what brought him down. He just couldn't communicate it. He couldn't get any enthusiasm. That was another thing. And we talk about comms a lot with Labour, but the enthusiasm thing. I've told this story before, and I'll say it again. I was at the 2024 Labour conference in Liverpool, and it was like a fucking wake. It's like someone had fucking died. I guess they're just taking over governments, but like Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves being so glum over everything. It was like, now the hard work begins. I thought it would be ecstatic. I thought that everyone would be like punching the air and going, this is fucking great. We're in charge. Yay, let's do it. Let's do everything really quick while we've got this absolutely stonking great fucking majority that we're never going to get again. Exactly, Lee. I mean, Andy will be brilliant as comms, but nope. What do you mean? Burnham is not doing great on the climate crisis. Moving Miliband was a bad sign, and his moves have not engendered trust in me. Well, I think, and one Angie Payne, you decided straight away that you weren't happy with him because of his first move wasn't to whatever it is that needed to be his first move. But yeah, this is the thing. First impressions. I think it's going to be very, very difficult for people who are watching this, people in the chat and stuff who have decided that Andy Burnham's a bad egg. To ever come around to thinking, he's all right, actually. Whereas there was, but do you know what? And you're going to hate me saying this, but it's true. We're not the people they need to appeal to. They need to appeal to your middle of the road, right wing, One Nation conservatives who will say things like the people in Makerfield don't like Labour, but Andy's all right. So you got to appeal to win. And even in a proportional representation system, you need to appeal to those people. You need to get a majority on board. Anything Burnham gets done is paid for in trans blood. I don't care where he came from. I can't forgive that. Well, I understand the sentiment there, Gallifreyan men. I understand that it's incredibly upsetting that this fucking ridiculous guidance has been handed down by this stupid fucking committee run by TERFs. But yeah, the anything that he gets done, I sort of think, well, if he helps the rights of disabled people, it's not necessarily follows that it's because of the war on trans people. That doesn't actually make any money for the government. It doesn't actually get any fucking goodwill or any kind of like votes, as we often talk about. Being anti-trans isn't a vote winner. It's just a vote fucking loser. It's not doing him any favors. But yeah, I mean, looking at what Labour have done through the lens of a trans person, I can see why trans people are just like, fuck this lot. Fuck these cunts. I can absolutely understand that. Absolutely understand that. Roger Devine, he is a snake, though. You see? Look, there you go. Roger Devine, he's a snake. And Morning Brew says, I was mildly hopeful for Burnham, Graham. Were you? I mean, I don't know what I'm paying, but I'm pretty sure that it was like a matter of days of Burnham getting into government. Don't forget, it is the summer holidays, so Parliament's not in session at the moment. That you were like, he was. I just remember Capitals and his. Was it because of the Rosebank jackdaw, or was it something else? What Angry Pagan? That you were like, fuck this guy, fuck this guy over. George only. I went to private prep school. It did nothing for me. Well, it gave you £2 to give us all the super chats. That's quite nice. But yeah. So look, I just want to move on and just talk for a moment about what should replace woke 1.0. And this was this was said by, I don't know if someone said it before, but I saw a speech by Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez talking about that woke 1.0 is over. Let's look to the future. So obviously we don't want to abandon equality. But what Malik argues for is long-term political organization, concrete policy, material improvements in people's lives, solidarity between groups, rather than competitive identity politics, continuing to oppose discrimination, and less emphasis on symbolic gestures and individual moral purity. And I can't really agree with that, especially with the long-term political organisation, which is why I think that everyone should, you're going to hate me saying this, but we should all fucking join Labour. Should become a Labour member and then, cause havoc inside Labour. That's what we should do. That's what all the groups do. They entryist. They go into parties and say, hey, why don't you do this? We don't like the way that you're doing this. Why don't you do this instead? A serious caucus group of trans activists, a trans group, a pro-trans group within Labour would be really fucking helpful. It would be really fucking helpful. Because at the moment, there's LGBT Labour, but they're not fucking great, are they? Where are they? Where are they? I think there's things worth ditching. Probably the performative activism and we need to move away from the corporate, trying to get corporates on board, because they don't give a fuck really. All they give a fuck about is the bottom line, and they're interested in virtue signaling rather than actually doing anything about it. But purity tests is a big one for me. We've got to stop the purity tests and the pylons for people who are on the left. It's why, there are certain people on the left that I don't get along with, and I think they write stupid shit. I think they honestly write stupid shit on the internet, and I don't watch their videos, but I don't comment. I leave it, I just don't. As far as I'm concerned, they're a different flavour of left to me. They have different priorities to me. They have a different outlook on certain things, but I don't want to tear them down. Even people who in my life have done stuff that are, been a bit shit. I have no interest in sitting here saying don't subscribe to this person's Substack, because of my personal feelings about them. I think, and I'll say this about Zach Polanski as well, as I often have done. I think it's great what Zach Polanski's done. He's got a lot of people to join the Greens, and he's managed to pull the Overton window to the left a bit. I think he's lost a bit of his footing over the last few months, but that's another story. But I mean, getting that win in Gorton and Denton was amazing, an absolutely fantastic win for the Greens. And they're on, as far as I'm concerned, they're on my side. The SNP are on my side. The Lib Dems are on my side. The Plaid Cymru are on my side. And I'm not going to get bogged down in arguments about this and that, when the real thing that we need to be fighting against is fascism coming over the fucking hill. Trumpism coming over the hill. We need to stop policing trivial language mistakes. And I know that's difficult as well. But if someone fucks up and says, I'm sorry, let them fucking apologise. And by the same token, though, when someone is accused of upsetting someone, just say, yeah. Just say I fucked up. Just say I'm sorry. Just say, yeah, oh, fuck yeah, that came out wrong. Or I was drunk. Or whatever it is. I'm really, really sorry for any offense. Don't come out battling saying, oh, fucking hell, this is an affront to who I am as a person. And get over yourself. Just say you fucked up. Everyone fucks up. It's fine. And when someone says, sorry, I fucked up, you leave it at that. That's fine. Fucked up on that one. Sorry. I think this is, confusing representation amongst elites with equality for everyone. I mean, what we have to strive for is power. I know that sounds like a bad, aren't we striving for equality, Graham? Aren't we striving for a better political system, a better voting system? Aren't we striving for universal basic income and freedom of the arts and rejoining the EU? Yes, we are. We can't do any of those things without power. And there are ways of getting power, and it might be a little bit distasteful. Join fucking Labour after what they've done. Yeah, but if you're part of Labour, you can put together a group within Labour that is going to fight for trans rights and get rid of this fucking horrific, horrible guidance, this trans guidance, which is just absolute bullshit, which over 100 MPs in Labour have said they don't want. Get them on side. Get them to meet up. You can if you're part of it. You were supposed to be the chosen one to us, Andy. Yeah, don't. Again, can I just add this to the list of things? Stop putting people on pedestals. They'll always let you down. There's no chosen one. There's no prophecy. They're going to make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. Maybe you should stop calling for equality, stop calling for equity, as equality seems like oppression to the privileged, whereas equity is more acknowledging. Equity sounds like something like a money thing, doesn't it? I've got some equity. I bought some ecstasy and some equity off a dealer in the club. I can't do that, Graham. I not want to hear them say nasty shit to others, but I expect them to be kind to an evil person who wanted to remove our rights. I don't know who you're particularly talking about that on that, but what I would say is for people who are, look, there's some channels that I just don't fucking listen to. I don't watch, and I won't list them here, right? But I'm not really interested in what they've got to say. I think they make too much. But I'll just leave them. I just leave them to it. I'm not there constantly calling them twats online, getting online and saying, oh, you fucking assholes. If I'm doing a post about someone, right, on Facebook or Threads or Blue Sky or whatever, nearly always about some horrible thing that someone on the right has done. I try not to go out after people on the left, even if they've done something really demonstrably fucking stupid. I just leave them. Just try and step away, and let them fight their own fights. Don't get involved in this, fighting on the left. And there's going to be people you don't agree with. There's going to be people who have fundamental disagreements with, but we need to look at how we can get our grip on the levers of power, and arguing amongst ourselves is and purity tests, gatekeeping. This is keeping people out. You are chosen one, Graham. Don't let us down there. But no, Jenny, please, God, no. I'm really seriously not. I will let you down. This is one of the reasons I'm not involved in politics. I make stupid decisions. I try my best. I'm not a good person, but I'm trying to be. I'm trying to be desperately. I want to be a good person. I want to do the right thing. But I don't necessarily always do the right thing. Sometimes I do really selfish things. Sometimes I've decided to do something and it's turned out really fucking bad. Yes, fill in with wind turbines. Fill everything with wind turbines. All of Trump's golf course. Graham is actually the Castrish Hederick. Well, if you've read the sequel to June, if you've read June Messiah, you know how that turns out, don't you? Graham is I'm not the Messiah. I'm just a very naughty boy. But yeah, let's not be coy about this, though. We need to defend equal rights. We need to defend protection from discrimination, racial equality, LGBT rights and equality, disability rights, challenging institutional prejudice. We need to be expanding opportunity to everyone. And I don't think that any of our fundamental objectives were wrong. Any of them. I think what we were fundamentally trying to do, what we've been trying to do for the last 10, 15 years, or even longer, going back, I don't think those fundamental objectives were wrong. But our legitimate causes became entangled with bad tactics, bad comms. The opponents who have much more money and are much better at turning cultural resentment into political power. And we need to get better. We need to get better at that side of it, tactics. Come up with canny ways of getting under people's skin and making people understand and getting people on side. And it's not necessarily going to be done through, preaching to the converted, or what I do, preaching to the perverted. AL. Anyway, but yeah, not necessarily. I felt like when we were fighting against Brexit, I did really feel like we didn't have much in the way of political power. we weren't supported by the leader of the opposition, and we weren't supported by the government at the time. And I often talked about the Remain movement going on marches being a bit like Pride. It's just to show that we're here, we're still here, and we're not going away. And there are thousands and thousands of people who want us to stay in the EU and now, rejoin the EU. And I think that's very, very important. But marches are just one sort of facet, and I think that one of the problems with the Remain campaign was that the political side wasn't canny enough. Our tactics weren't good enough on the political side. And again, I know I've got a chip on my shoulder about this, but the guy in charge of the fucking People's Vote or whatever the fuck it was called, some private educated Tory twat who's going, this is what we should do. And then they had a big fucking meltdown in November in November 2019. There was a big meltdown in the or maybe it was through the summer. I don't know, but it was like, when the backs were against the wall, and when we really needed to have one final push to victory, we snatched defeat from the jaws of victory because the People's Vote campaign fell apart. The Lib Dems fell apart. They put a woman in charge who thought that she was going to be the next Prime Minister when she wasn't. Put her face on the side of a bus. Joe Swinson. But yeah, elbows up. Decaffeination. Far Riches and the Messiah. I've got 3 nails if anyone wants to put him up for the night. Hey! Very good. But I'm bump. Graham isn't the Messiah. He's not white enough. I don't think Jesus was particularly white. Having travelled out of the Middle East. Hopefully Canada will increase the price of its electricity imports by exactly the same amount. Either that or random brownouts. A brownout sounds horrific, doesn't it? Trump has brownouts. If Trump tries to annex Canada, they'll know why there is a Geneva list. Should we just go through quickly some of the other news stories? I know we've really done this to death because we've been talking about it for 2 hours and 20 minutes. Russia has threatened Britain over the British drones that have been deployed by the Ukrainians in Russia. Disabled bus pass restrictions have been scrapped. So Burnham's government is removing restrictions affecting concessionary bus travel for disabled people in England, which means that at the moment you could only use your bus pass at certain times of the day, like after 9:30. That's not great if you're disabled and need to get into work. So they've changed it now, so it's 24 hours, which is fantastic. Ministers' phone numbers have been found online. Personal mobile numbers belonging to cabinet ministers have been discovered publicly accessible online. It comes amid continuing security concerns involving senior politicians, which is a bit fucking shit. That's probably because of WhatsApp. WhatsApp. I've got the phone numbers of ministers that I've got by dint of being part of WhatsApp groups. Should I have those numbers? No, I don't know. Private prison staffing row. There's Burnham is facing calls to intervene over staffing arrangements at privately run HMP Millsick. Concerns centre on custody officials employed under insecure, highly flexible agreements, and this is your private public fucking partnership bullshit, isn't it? All coming. The chicken's coming home to roost on that one. There's a growing number of people who are receiving or seeking ADHD diagnoses, but treatment provision has not expanded at the same rate. There's long waiting lists for assessment and follow-up and medication shortages. But here's the thing, as someone who's ADHD and is on medication for it, actually the diagnosis was better than it was more of a sea change in my life than the medication. Because it allowed me to do things differently to how I've been doing it. I'd stop trying to push water uphill. Meanwhile, people with severe intellectual disabilities have dramatically shorter than average lifespans. The research puts the gap at 24 years. 24 years for people with serious intellectual disabilities. That's fucking crazy, isn't it? But then you think about if people are have learning difficulties. The vampires out there, the merchants of death, just run roughshod all over them. They'll get them smoking, they'll get them taking drugs, they'll get them doing, drinking, gambling, all the fucking major health factors that can be very dangerous to people when they're sort of in their 50s and 60s. And yeah, I mean, yeah. Labour MP has been a Labour MP is being investigated over COVID loans. Labour have opened an investigation into an MP over COVID era financial support. There's an investigation into that. Meanwhile, Virgin is challenging Eurostar. Virgin Trains is continuing plans for passenger services through the Channel Tunnel. It would create direct competition for Eurostar. A British Muslim student has been refused US entry. A British Muslim student was traveling with a valid visa to America, detained for around 23 hours, and ultimately refused admission to the United States. South Korea is reducing military independence on the military dependence on the US. This comes after Trump saying that he's going to stop supporting South Korea because they didn't support him in Iran. There's a lot of uncertainty over American security commitments, not just in South Korea, but also in Taiwan and also NATO allies under Trump, who obviously is more team Putin than team decency. Russia has been accused of weaponizing winter by the Ukrainians, who say that Russia is intensifying attacks on energy infrastructure. And the concern is that Russia is attempting to damage heating and energy supplies before winter kicks in. Energy infrastructure has been a recurring Russian target throughout the war. The US cannot be trusted as an ally. Yeah, say that again. Correct. He was called Isu. Mary was called Mariam. She was veiled and 14 when she fell pregnant. Scripture is fun, isn't it? When you talk about vampires being like over 100 years old and getting with teenage girls in like Twilight and how fucked up that is, just imagine an entity that's 13.8 billion years old, or possibly older than that, because it had to evolve into a god, which would have taken about 13.8 billion years. So let's just say tens of billions of years old. Let's just mention the fact that he got a 14-year-old pregnant. How old are you? A billion years old. Okay. So I'd imagine a god existing at the end of the universe, not at the beginning. Not at the beginning. It's not perfect, but it's a step in the right direction. They still need to up the budget massively for ADHD and autism diagnosis and support. The US is not an ally and are embedding data sabotage into our system. Lee, I do think there is an overdiagnosis of ADHD at the moment because a lot of it is being farmed out to private enterprises, which have a vested interest in saying, yep, you got ADHD. So apparently our flock cameras aren't great either. The bloody AI can't tell if we wear a seatbelt over a dark item of clothing. Oh dear. Not great. So over to the papers very quickly. The Times, first of all, tweak to early release could keep PC's killers in prison. I think this story about the murderers, the killers of Andrew Harper, PC Andrew Harper. I think this is gonna. I can't see them getting out. I don't. They're gonna sit. They're gonna sort something out. So it doesn't come. It was never an ally. It was a babysitting job. Yeah. Children left fixated with violence by social media. Report backs curbs to stop Southport-style attacks. British children are becoming intoxicated by extremism. The Children's Commissioner in England has warned. I'm gonna look at this a bit askance because we've heard this before, haven't we? Haven't we? My generation. Oh, wouldn't expect that. Bin face, go away. My generation, we were told video nasties made us go crazy, and then violent video games in the 90s. I think this is just, I don't know. Violent crimes down, murders down. And then Hayden Panettiere, sadly, beautiful young woman, 36 years old. She's died. Maybe it was an overdose. We don't know, or it could have just been a heart attack. We don't know until the results come through the autopsy. But her brother died. Her brother died at the age of 28 of a heart failure. So we don't know, but it's an absolute tragedy. And I think after the death of Buffy's sister and who else died? There was another young actress who died fairly recently, and the thing of like we're protecting child stars a lot better now. I don't think we are. I think there needs to be more protections, like protections in law against it all being a bit too much for young people being thrust into the limelight and with everything that entails. High fidelity music taste may be the key to compatibility. So if you like the same music, you're more likely to enjoy being together. Which, yeah, I'm gonna take that one. I'm gonna take that one and run with it. There's Amy Hunt says athletics needs more personalities like me. Looking fab there with her lipstick on and her painted nails. Raina paves way for more traveller sites. Good. I'm glad traveller people get to have somewhere that they can stay. What's the problem? Scrapping prostate tests will cost lives. Right. And then they got this old fuck. I'm an endangered species of older English gent, says this cunt off bargain. He's a bargain cunt from Bargain Hunt. And he's basically saying that he's old and not woke. Yeah, mate. You're the only one. You're the only old fuck who's anti-woke. Yeah, it's just you. It's just you, basically. It's you and Jim Davidson. That's it. You're the only old people. You're the only fucking boomers who have a problem with woke. That's it. It's just you. And Burnham to block water firms from using surge pricing during drought. Good. Flood warning issued after months of heat. No surprise. The ground has become compacted and will not absorb as much water as it normally does. And if we have a lot of rain over a short period of time, we are going to have some fucking mega flash floods, which are going to be absolutely horrific because they're going to be mixed in with sewage, because we have a sewage system that is mixed in with our grey water system and our drain system and our gutter system. It's all in the same system. So if you put too much water in those tunnels under our streets, then they bubble up to the top and sewage comes out the fucking grates. Great. What's funny about the video nasty era is it made us less caring about others. I mean, now we are mad about not owning a physical game, but there's people who own nothing because of dictators. A lot of people can only see what's right in front of them, to be honest. Billion is Scientology numbers. That's what their book says. Billion. There were panicked squeals about young'uns reading novels in Victorian times. They panicked about comic books. They did. They panicked about Dungeons and Dragons in the 80s. Do you remember that? The panic over Dungeons and Dragons and devil worshipping. Do you remember well, you probably don't remember, but you've read about or heard about the Lady Chatterley's lover case where the government representative or whatever it was saying, would you allow your servant to read this? Would you allow your maid to read this? And it's just like, yeah, you're a dinosaur from another era. I Am the Resurrection by the Stone Roses is my recommendation for today. I once saw Ian Brown live doing a solo set, and he played I Am the Resurrection at the end of the set, and it was on Easter Day. It was Easter Day in Liverpool at the Mask. This is now called the Arts Club. It was the Mask at the time. That was fucking great, though. I Am the Resurrection and I Am the Light. Ashera was one step back on the Pantheon. She was not an original mother goddess. She was the first female goddess to have cult members systematically slaughtered, leading to the modern patriarchy. Anyway, and then we've got this absolute shitbag here called Charles Moore, privately educated, of course. Jason Orday's death cannot be blamed on the press, he says. Yes, it can, because it was entirely the fucking fault of the press, who fucking hounded him with over 180 articles. 180 articles in the space of a few weeks. You hounded him to death. Go fuck yourself. To unalivement, Charles Moore. And then boost for Branson's British Eurostar rival. So he just wants to make a version of Eurostar. The women who won't give up fat jabs even though their hair's falling out, says the Daily Mail. So who was the White House hoaxer who duped the PM? So this is a story from yesterday about the PM exchanging notes and exchanging messages with who he thought was a Trump's chief of staff. But it turns out he was duped. But then the embarrassing debacle, which left the PM looking like a chump. I don't really agree with this, because apparently after a couple of messages, he said that something's not right here, and he looked into it, and it turned out not to be Trump's chief of staff. So yeah, whatever. And then we've got troubled Hollywood star Hayden dead at 36, which probably the Daily Mail probably celebrate, because they're sick fucks like that. And we've got Pep's agony. I love my wife life. Well, no, my ex-wife unbelievably, but she loves me, but we lost the passion. Oh well, never mind. And then we've got star Hayden dies at 36. Fame and a life of struggle. We've got wine buffoon here. Devastating drought, wildfires, homes burnt to the ground, families who have lost everything but refuck. Deputy Richard Ty says it's great for the grapes. That's what he said. He said, "Oh, it's all right now. You can grow grapes. You can grow better grapes." This isn't the first time he said this. It's absolute fucking bullshit. The grape growers of Bordeaux in France who have had fucking wildfires to deal with, and I don't think they really agree with that. I still can't believe Andy thought he was talking to the chief of staff in the White House. I mean, I would have double checked first. Yeah, but the thing is, Hidden Night, is that she had her phone numbers taken from her or something. There was a data breach over in America, because they're fucking useless. They're fucking amateurs all around Trump. Trump's an amateur, and all the people around him are amateurs. There was a data breach, and so someone could have spoofed the phone number for her, and also, because Trump's mad as a fucking bag of cut snakes, he will he could be telling to say mad shit. And so if you get a mad message from someone who's supposed to be representing Trump and the number is correct because it's been spoofed, you might be inclined to go, okay, yeah, that sounds like something that you fuckers would say. He converted and had the councils of Nicosia and Nicaea and Hippo, where he changed Christianity to being a lot like the religion he was in before, moved the Sabbath, etc. Are we talking about Constantine? Well, the original Sumerian Mother Earth goddess was Ki Ninhursag, who was originally the creator deity and the most powerful in the Pantheon. Wow. It's almost as though it's all been invented by humans. Just saying. Anyway, neighbours told, don't phone 999 to report next door's barbecue. Fucking hell. Fucking God, fucking. Imagine being that much of a gobshite. Hey, my neighbours having a barbecue. Come put the barbecue out. Fire chiefs warn public not to use 999 to report neighbours holding barbecues or bonfires in the wake of government national alert system. Millions of mobile phones. It's pretty wet here in Durham. I don't think you could even get a fucking fire started. Send pupils far more likely to be shut in isolation rooms. That does not surprise me anyway. I did my fair share of standing alone outside the in detention, standing alone outside the staff room when I was a kid. Lost property, SAS rifle, and 139 pound washing machine missing from MOD. And we've got the millennium midlife crisis. We 40-year-olds are bitter and broke, yeah, which is fair enough because we can't afford to fucking buy anything. Grapes still need watering. They do, George Allen. Thank you very much for the £2 super chat. Fenrir's betrayal by Issa, such a misunderstood tale. So they put out a national alert to tell us not to start fires, and then why when fires are reported as an emergency. I don't think that was well thought through, do you? Smugglers use Britain as transit hub for migrants, is the front cover of the Daily Express. Our hero mourners line street to say goodbye to Bonnie. Queen having bags of fun on holiday. Don't give a fuck. I mean, what the... Listen, mate, it's okay. It's okay, I've done it. What have you done? Well, I printed up 450,000 bits of paper, right, with a picture of this old woman on it, because she's holding a couple of plastic bags. So she's holding these plastic bags. So I've printed. It's okay. I've done it. I've printed 450,000 copies of this picture, and now I'm going to distribute it to every newsagent and train station and WA Smith in the country. I've done that. Great. I that's wonderful. I suppose. Hey, listen, I'm going to wrap up in a minute because I've been rabbiting on for 2 hours and 39 minutes, which I know isn't a record for me, but it's a bit long to be sort of talking about what's happening this morning. I do need to have some breakfast at some point. But we'll quickly go over today. But we got if you want to get super chat goal and we get we'll get Boba Fetty, get some Boba Fetty in. We've got 3 more super chats that need to come in before then. So if you want to drop some money and we can get a Boba Fetty before we go. Hayden overdose death. We don't know that for sure yet, but there's a Daily Star pontificating. He's just 4 weeks into the new job, but Andy's fake caught out by Trump prankster and crazy wildfire alert. Does someone need to take away PM's phone? Yeah, fair enough. And the Guardian, the only newspaper, I think, that is, I've got the picture of the tens of thousands of people who gathered in London last night for a vigil to pay tribute to Jason Arday. Our mate Femi was there. He was found dead on Friday. He resigned as Cambridge professor after allegations of plagiarism, which he denied. The Guardian joined in on the pylon on Jason Arday. So, yeah. Champagne and a KFC. Amy Hunt celebrates 4 golds and looks to the future. A woman we had never heard of 2 weeks ago. Now we'll hear a lot of her because she's funny and attractive and very good at athletics. Defying gravity at Edinburgh Fringe. How pole dancing became a serious art. Pole dancing has always been a serious art for me. Tice, stop fighting climate change. Enjoy the heat waves. These are not serious people. These are joke people who live joke lives and just spread a trail of fucking destruction for someone else to clear up. And a madder story here. Trump says he'll bomb Oman if it gets in the way of an Iran deal. We talked about this on Stateside last night. But what the fuck, man? Like, Oman is seen as the Switzerland of the Middle East. And it's a place where there's American military bases in Salalah, and there's one up the coast as well in Oman. And it's just like, what the fuck? You're going to bomb you? Anyway, we've got stories here. Ringleader Kim's respect disarms US. KPMG and EY's £456 million deal blows hole in pledge to cut consultant costs. Chelsea co-owners Walter and Brullet in talks over Sterling stakes in Clearlake. I never understand what these things are. I never understand these ones. Brexit yields dividend for Europe's best universities. A surge in foreign students at Bocconi Business School in Milan illustrates how Europe's universities are profiting from a post-Brexit shift in higher education. So another great news story about Brexit for countries that aren't ours. Not this one. It's been shit for us, mate. It's been shit for us. But, someone's having a nice end of the world. And then we've got stains spread through private credit portfolio. Strains, not stains, Graham. It's really small on the screen. Strains. It's straining my eyes to read this. Strains spread through private capital credit portfolios. AI anxiety spurs review. Barclays revamps top tier. Green signal for Virgin. Monzo chair steps down. Kushner in Israel talks. Ferrari defies EV skeptics. And the Mark's first fully electric car, the Luce, I think that is, has sold for a record $40 million, making it the costliest new car auctioned and defying the backlash of its place as a stable of petrol-driven supercars. So there you go. It's called the Luce. The Luce. She's loose! The Ebola death toll mounts. It's about the Ebola in Democratic Republic of Congo. We've got the Metro here with a picture of Hayden Panettiere looking gorgeous. Hero star found dead after suspected overdose was an inspiration to millions of fans. Meanwhile, Trump's still alive, unfortunately. That doesn't sound much like peace, Mr. President. Trump's 4-letter threat to bomb US ally as his 60-day deadline to resolve Iran war expires with no end in sight. Yes. And that's it. That's it for the papers. Breaking news. We've got Heated Rivalry author donates $300,000 to 5 rural libraries that are facing closure. When we did get a Brexit benefit, though, 7 PMs in 10 years. I mean, it's not great, but it's a benefit. Why is it a benefit? I mean, having Liz Truss as our Prime Minister even for 44 days, I mean, that it's not exactly a benefit. She killed the Queen, wrecked the economy. You can do a lot in 44 days. Stop reminding us, Graham. What am I tell you what? What? That Trump is still alive. Trump on Truth Social is now posting maps declaring the Strait of Hormuz new US territory. He wants to change it to the Strait of America. The man's a fucking nutcase who shits his pants. I mean, people voting for a man who's a nutcase who shits his pants. I mean, nothing down for them. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've had a mildly entertaining morning and 20 minutes of the afternoon. I'll be back this evening at 7:30 with Geoscope. We'll be talking about news around the world. We're getting into what this new normal is in the Middle East and North Korea with Donald Trump being a nutter. Pork market, says Gallifreyan, man. Oh my God, he gets worse. He does. He's not going to get better, is he? It's not going to get better, is he? So please join me and hopefully Ollie Belhatman at 7:30 this evening. But you know what? Just do us a favor in general. Just give us a like for this video if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you want to subscribe. That's awesome. And also hit the bell notification icon and it'll tell you when we're going live. So hopefully we'll see you tonight at 7:30 and then tomorrow morning, probably about 7:30 again. Tomorrow morning, it's a bit of a late start because of the summer holidays and stuff. There are things to do, places to be. So please join us for that tomorrow and hit the bell notification icon so you know when we're going to go live. And until then, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. You've been awesome, amazing, and beautiful. And until we meet again, I'll say thanks for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.